Hello and welcome to the Golden Fanfics. I hope you enjoy today's very special fanfic, What If Deku Was Spider-Man, Part 2, made by Bastion Lights. And the fanfic will be linked in the description. So leave a like, subscribe, and comment for another part. Now let's get into the fanfic. The Amazing Deku. Chapter 9. You're not getting away from me. Come back here, Spider. Looking back as he swings, Spider-Man examines the two shouting at him as he makes his escape. The one time a beautiful woman says that, all jokes aside, I'm pretty screwed here. I gotta get somewhere. He leaps across a neon sign heading towards the nearest one-lane street. Once there he stops, bearing witness to Mount Lady stopping in her tracks. She pauses and glares at her target, turning furious red before shrinking. One-lane street's my only weakness. As Izuku heads to the nearest manhole cover, the landing Black Cat watches while preparing her pistol and aiming at the boy. It's almost like he knew you'd stop. With the right trigger squeeze, she fires a little black cat face that attaches to his back. She then holds back Mount Lady as he dives into the sewers. What are you doing? Let him go. She then holds up a smartphone, opening an app that shows a map with a moving red dot on the screen. The lady in purple nods in approval. Oh, pretty sneaky for a former treasure hunter. Let's go catch a spider. The duo exit out. Later. The night continues to rise over the skies. With Izuku, he's running through the sewage system. Each step splashes dirty water, muddying his already thin shoes with each squish. He stops for a bit and checks back, feeling his body start to tire. He checks back, expecting nothing and seeing it. What a day. He scans the tunnel for a map, checking that he's reached the outside at the end of an entrance. Looking out, he sees that he's near an industrial plant. It's pretty close to where he lives, so he can disrupt to blend in. Just as he does, however, he notices the item on the back of his suit. After staring at the kitty face, he begins to realize what it means. This is, oh no, it's like one of those tracking devices from the movies, isn't it? He grabs it, attempting to remove it until he hears noises nearby. Oh. Not wanting to risk it, he takes a plan of action. Up above, Mount Lady tiptoes across the industrial plant as a giant, making sure to avoid anything important. With the silver-haired feline on top of her shoulder, she scans her phone looking for the wall-crawling vigilante. He's just up ahead. Mount Lady quietly moves forward to the underhead passage leading into the sewers. Black Cat jumps off as her partner shrinks, landing in the murky waters. To the surprise of both of these adults, she does not at all see Spider-Man. Where is he? She checks her device, only to look at her little tracking device left in the ground. Attached to it is a black piece of clothing that it was attached to. She picks it up, eyes widened as she realizes the implication. He knew. What? The tracer is tossed to the Titanic lady, minus the cloth left between Black Cat's claws. He found the tracer and knew we'd track him, and got rid of it to throw us off. The night-clothed beauty slides it into a plastic bag before smiling. He's far more intuitive than I gave him credit for. Oh, how nice of you to be impressed about the boy we've been hired to catch, she replies, before a smirking expression forms on her face. The miniature giant woman clenches and crushes the tracer. I'll find you, Spider-Man, and then you're all mine. Black Cat scuffs at her response. Could you at least pretend like you have some grace? Unironically, this angers the Titanic woman, who glares sparks at the burglar-themed one. Oh, like you're one to talk. I don't show off my tits to the populace and have a sexy catgirl act. The key word there is an act. Your reputation is frivolous in and out of costume, is her reply before taking the suit and mask her colleague has. She then steps off, jumping towards the city as Mount Lady snaps from afar. But she doesn't care. Her job is to capture Spider-Man or discover his true identity. She had to abandon it last time for a personal emergency, but next time he won't be so lucky. Funny. He's fairly interesting for a masked vigilante. But I have no time for such thoughts. Later. Downtown at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Station, Tsukauchi sits in his office on the phone. I see, so, he got away again. But you do have something of his we can use. He delivers a pause. I'll ask for his assistance. Yes, I'm sure Hound Dog would love to assist in this manner. He despises lawbreaking, thank you. He hangs up on his end, before resting his head on his free hand. If we can catch him, there'd be no reason to order an arrest warrant, and you won't have to waste your time limit searching for him. Isn't that right, Yagi? Elsewhere. Izuku lands in the garbage lot of his apartment, already used to the terrible smell of trash left for the sanitation to collect, as he's currently not of the best of sense. He quickly throws on his shirt, rips off his web mask, and quickly removes his shooters, stocking them inside his backpack. Despite the smile on his face, he's still a little upset about the dangerous situation he just escaped from. Unlike before with All Might, he's more scared that not only villains are who he must deal with, but also heroes are after him. Mount Lady will not be the last of them, and Black Cat was this close to finding his identity. Thankfully, he can stop for a while and wait for the heat to die down, not that he would even if he could. Hell, if he had left his shirt behind he'd just ask Momo for a new one. Despite her initial dislike, she seems to be warming up to the idea. Speaking of whom, it's so late out she's probably gone now. Hopefully, he can do something to make up for that. Izuku. It comes out shocking when he opens the door and he's greeted by his mother as well as Kaken and Momo. His doting mother sits up to address her presence. You're home late. If you were expecting company then you should have gotten here sooner. Eyes hastily darting to his friend and bully, the now perspiring teen gives a bow to his guests. He let his desire to become a hero get in the way of his promise, and it ended so badly. More likely than not they saw everything on screen as he ran from the size-changing lady and the sexy cat girl. I'm sorry guys. I guess I lost track of time. Sure thing, says Bakugo as he walks by him. Though as he comes up to him he has to wonder why exactly is Kaken here, considering he was expecting just one person. He stops in front of him, whispering, we'll settle this Sunday. Or I'll start unraveling that web of yours. He throws his shoes on rudely and steps out the door. Those words are worrying. Raising his head he glances at Momo coming his way. She has this solemn half smile of a face. Care to walk me to my car? You have a car? Limousine. The intrepid nerd glances at his mother, who gives a blatant thumbs up equipped with a grin when she said what type of car it was. It's like his mom didn't notice Momo slapped him in the face with how rich she is. That's sure, he stutters, before leading her down the steps. This would be the part of their walk where a conversation is formed to calm the awkward silence. He hopes she does anything to distract him from thinking about how this feels like the end of a date. Why he thinks that he doesn't know. Thankfully for him, Momo speaks, if it's okay with you, would you like to hang out with me and the rest of my class this Saturday? Your class? Asui wanted to see you again, and it felt like the best way for you to meet the rest of my class. She makes a much larger smile as she speaks, just as the two reach the door. Seeing it brightens him up as well, the arachnid protagonist's cheek swelling upward as they fall under the crescent moon's gaze. Humming before the door of her parked limo, an attendant steps out from the car to open the door. As she does, Momo turns around to face her friend. Thankfully it's Saturday so that gives you time with Bakugo. Yeah, I wonder what he wanted, he says sarcastically. The rich girl gains a concerned look on her face. Izuku, why do you still associate with him? Bakugo may have talent, power, and the brains to follow through, but he lacks any charm, is incredibly violent and unpredictable. He puts himself on a pedestal above everyone else, including the rest of us in his class, and he just constantly tells you off whenever he can find the time. If he's been like that to you your entire life then don't you think you should cut your ties? I can't just do that, he tells her. There was a time where we were best friends. Also, he's half the reason I wanted to be a hero. It's surprising how that comes out of his mouth. He is. Kaken is everything you said. He is talented, has an amazing quirk, his instincts let him react to situations faster than I can plan things out, and has the charisma of a Chipotle enema. Ever since we were little I've wanted to be like him, to surpass him, to become a greater hero than I know he'll be. But why? I personally have nothing against him, but he's always an angry mess. Sometimes I wonder if he'll end up changing his mind and become a villain. It's more than just anger. Kaken is just as much a victim of this society as I am. Izuku glances over to her sternly. Remember when I said that everyone puts their faith into heroes too much? He's the result of that faith and took it out on anything who contradicted that. It's because everyone groomed him to be this perfect hero that there was nothing to stop his horrible attitude. In the end, Izuku smiles. That's why I'm really looking forward to Sunday so I can shatter that world. Momo looks at him with a glare. Will you stop being his friend then? If he doesn't change, I might have to. I'm not sure I can save two bullies. Do? Momo stares at him with intrigue. Thinking about it, why does he have two bullies at all? What has his life been like since he was diagnosed quirkless? And what did he mean by saving a bully? Is he referring to? Regardless of what that entails, the rich girl leans over and presses her lips against his cheek. Then I promise not to disappoint. See you tomorrow, Deku. With his demeaning nickname ringing in his ears, Izuku watches as she enters the limo and is driven away. He waves as she does, before heading up the steps to his home, but not without this intense thought in his head. I got kissed by a girl. Inside he hears the television. He peeks in seeing his mother watching international news. Taking a good look he spots a scarlet heroine, who like himself has this spider design going on. She wears her blonde hair flowing downward just over her shoulders and has webs under her armpits. Though seeing that gives an idea he would file away for later, he wants to listen in. Well, that's certainly an intriguing thing to know. But, what about the rumors of this spider-like vigilante in Japan being related to you? Denied. Says the woman in red, translations at the bottom providing information for him. Why would I have any relatives in Japan? This guy is probably just a mutation. As if anyone related to me would be a vigilante in Japan fighting criminals. I'd beat the shit out of my relatives for even attempting such a foolish thing. Inko immediately changes the channel. Such vulgar language from a lady, she says before turning to local news. Instead of putting him down, just help him correct his mistakes, that's all. Night mom, says Izuku, quickly heading into his bedroom. He manages to miss her watching and noticing his change in behavior. The next day. The weekend finally here, Izuku stands bright and early standing before the Aoirozu Manor gates. He wears his most casual of casuals, a red t-shirt with the words Marveler across his chest in yellow with blue shorts and matching scarlet shoes. He rings the bell and immediately gets a response. Izuku. Just a second. The door opens letting him in, which shocks him as he walks inside. How long has she been waiting for her guests? With the excitement in her voice, it kind of says a lot to how much she enjoys the company. Walking into the garden leading to her humongous mansion, there she stands just in front of her door with arms waving to him. Let's go. I've been meaning to use public transportation. She's really into being around others. Together the teenagers walk side by side, an air of awkwardness simmering in the air between them like a potentially delicious stew as they stumble into the city of Musatafu. For some reason, it's becoming far more challenging to be around her than before they started mutually using each other's first names. He needs to arrest this. So, how's everything? He asks her, hoping to stir up a conversation. Okay actually, she replies, her tone happy. At the same time, however, she's avoiding his eyes. We have the sports festival in 2 weeks, so we're all preparing our variety of fortes for that once-in-a-lifetime chance. That's something he remembers and needs no introduction for, an event that replaces the Olympics. It's where UA's hero course shows their stuff to the world and let them know just how strong they will become. He watches them every year, especially last year. So you're doing that? He begins to quickly think of an idea for her to work with, to become a stronger fighter, to better capitalize on her quirk. But as he murmurs his thoughts, she decides to break him out of his mantra. You think I can get first place? First place? His tone comes out as perplexity of a gasp. Those olive orbs of his dart across his fields of vision as he stutters. I guess you have the most potential out of everyone I know. Your quirk can make anything and give you the advantage immediately. But you have to think about it right. Of course. I need to think about its internal structure to produce it, she explains as they walk. A thought then occurs here, something Izuku realizes when he notices the change in her expression. Izuku, you don't think I can win? He sputters, waving his arms. I didn't say that, I just think you might freeze during the battle and forget to take the proper actions. That's what happened before, right? His eyes watch as her expression goes through a myriad of changes, from shock to contemplating to finally understanding. She must see what he's thinking. I did though. Stopping for a minute, she spots a bus coming their way. As it hits the nearest stop they enter, where the rich girl attempts to make the payment. We don't accept this much for fares. Yes. Momo has just tried to pay using 5,000 yen. Is this not enough? I got it. Izuku pays using his allowance, and together they take a seat as the bus travels across the streets heading for the stop nearest UA High. Eventually, they reach their destination and dismount before heading for the secure high school building. Though as soon as they reach the front gate it closes up tight, locking them out. Uh-oh. Don't worry. I'll get you a visitor's pass. With that, she steps forward using her pass as the entry. The gate closes up behind him as she enters, leaving him stuck standing on the sidelines waiting for anticipation. No one else is around, so it comes as less nerve-wracking to stay standing, looking at the golden gates he gave up not long ago. At the same time, his heart races, ecstatic to be here. The school All Might graduated from, the top hero school of the world where everyone who succeeds in graduating from has the best chance to rise to the top and become one of the greatest heroes of all time, is in front of him. Just being in front of this school causes his spotted cheeks to rise with glee. If only he didn't make that choice, he would be a hero in training instead of a vigilante no one likes. Well, if he cared about what others thought, he would never be a vigilante in the first place. To help others no matter what makes sense to him. And yet, he knows he's wrong. I can't keep thinking this, he says to himself, checking his hands, making sure he wasn't wearing his shooter gauntlets. Hey Deku. Again with that name, he flinches, jumping almost out of his shorts. He turns around to see Kaken dressed in casuals. He storms forth, hands in pockets while glaring at him. I thought I said Sunday. Izuku stutters a bit. Why he still does that he can only answer saying because it's Kaken. I'm here with Momo to meet her friends. Oh, the super extras, he replies, scuffing before brushing by him. Look out for that icy hot bastard. Icy hot. Also, I noticed you've gotten famous. He adds, and though in the dark at first, Izuku picks up on who he means, his critics. having fun being a law-abiding criminal. Izuku waves his hand. Please don't. I honestly don't care what you do. You'll never be as strong as a true hero, he tells the olive protagonist. Akin, this isn't about me proving I deserve to be in UA. Yeah. You just want to make it up to some dead girl. He comes to the gate, using his pass to garner entry, looking back with a glare at Deku. Said vigilante sighs. I guess some things will never change. I concur. He jumps in shock when he hears that sudden dialect. Turning around he comes to see Asui standing just behind him. Why isn't his spider sense able to keep him from a heart attack? Hello Asui. Sayu is fine for my friends. She then walks past him with a glance back at his nervous wreck of a face. I'll see you inside. Oh okay. The gate opens once more, revealing Momo on the other side to hand over a pass no different than hers. Momo. Here you go. Elsewhere. Down in the middle of the city, the black cat stands atop a roof chilling in the cool breeze of the day, with her arms crossed underneath the impressive bust she sports. All this she does while trying to remain solemnly ignorant to the rage-induced growls and snarls of the dogman just across from her wearing a muzzle over his snout. His hair wild and wacky like an inflatable arm flailing tube man, he approaches her. You know in hindsight, a dogman working with a catwoman seems like a bad idea, she says with an honest scowl. His response is a series of nonsensical ravings and growls, covered mostly by that black muzzle. I concur, but please don't use that name while I'm like this. They're broken up now. She then hands the canine a piece of clothing. Chapter 10. Ueo. Shouts the ecstatic spider lad as he walks across the halls of UA High. His giddy face erupts into a smile traversing the mansion-like scenery, whether it's the fact that the walls have the occasional faces of heroes who have graduated, including All Might and Endeavor, or passing by students who have stayed over with interesting designs, he can't get enough of this. This must be a dream come true for you, Izuku, she says to him as they walk, her eyes giving a flare of kindness and understanding when she notes his reactions to everything. Of course, it's a dream come true for him. If he still believed in Santa Claus he'd think this was Christmas. Soon Momo stops by a door and opens up to reveal to her guest the ensemble cast of her class. Among the recognizable faces Sayu, Kaminari, Jiru, and Kitsuki, there are also tons of new people he has never seen before. The most recognizable are the short person with purple balls on his head, the girl with pink skin and hair, along with yellow horns atop her head, a boy with a bird head, and this other lady with blonde hair, arranged to make her out to be a box with the smallest irises in her grayish blue eyes. Everyone, please welcome my friend Izuku Midoriya, she says as she introduces the flabbergasted spider kid. Oh ho. The pink girl comes in closer, causing our emerald protagonist to shift his eyes to the side quickly as his head burns a bright red. She got close to him for someone he's never met before. After a quick examination, the pink girl says, so you're Yamomo's boyfriend. I'm Mina Shido. Everything after those words voids out of his mind as the tomato impression returns full force, the young nerd frozen in place from that jagged compliment. He didn't notice it, but his apparent girlfriend is also sporting a shocking expression, cheeks as scarlet as Bakugo's eyes. Ha. That's him by the way. BBBBB boyfriend. ED don't be ridiculous. Shouts Momo, her arms waving rapidly up and down. Izuku's just a friend. He really likes heroics, and I just thought he'd be interested in coming. He tried for the entrance exams after all. Nice to see you again, Midoriya, speaks Jiru from farther down in the room, one earlobe jack in her phone listening to Jam Project. She's hardly interested in him. Though getting a closer look at her, Izuku leans in closer to Momo, whispering, why is she wearing that on her shirt? I made her some Spider-Man apparel. She's a fan of his, she says back. The low-tone information hits him in his heart, making it jump up and down with happiness and joy. Never in his life did he ever expect a girl his age to be interested in his alter ego, let alone him at all. Ignorant to the others, as well as his rich friend's quickly disappearing scowl, Izuku takes in a deep breath before the rest of the class introduces themselves. Up next comes an also tall guy with a male equivalent to a mature physique as Momo, with short-cut blue hair and glasses that reflect light so bright he can't see his sight. Welcome to UA, Midoriya. I am Izuku holds a hand out stopping his incessant yelling. Sorry. I am Tenyu Ida. Nice to meet you. Okoyami. This is from the bird person. You can call me Kirishima. The guy with red, spiky hair speaks. Shoji. This comes from the guy with the appendages, who talks through a makeshift mouth from one of them. How exactly do you know Yaoi Rozu? Are you two actually dating? This comes from the little guy, his bloodshot eyes stark raving mad as he demands answers. Kaminari and Shoji pull him back. Next comes up a floating pair of clothes, who says, Hi. I'm Hagakure. That over there was Mineta. Iwa. Ghost clothes. Izuku shouts, waving his arms about in shock. No, that's just my quirk, says the girl as she explains. My epidermis reflects light instead of absorbing it. Oh. Almost immediately he begins jotting down thoughts about it. So then you're essentially an invisible woman. You can sneak in anywhere by taking off the thought then occurs to him, and his face flushes red again. Up next comes a boy with shiny yellow hair, almost sparkling along with his eyes. Bonsoir, Messamai. You may call this one Aoyama. He extends a hand to the spider boy. Izuku accepts and shakes, confused by his random French. Okay. The blonde girl comes in to speak to him. Hey. My name is Kami Utsushimi, and I have to say I'm honestly surprised. You are? You're like, totes, cute. The compliment turns him even redder, as their class president gives a slight twitch. Not as Todoroki, but it's like a shame you're not here. You could be a mascot for professionals. Thanks. It's not the backpedal he was expecting, but a compliment's a compliment. Ignoring that for a second he looks around for anyone else, asking, is this all of your class? Not exactly, speaks Tokoyami, drinking a soda pop afterward. Everyone else either had things to do or aren't exactly sociable. You're one to talk, adds Mineta cockily. He then quickly turns to Izuku. Seriously, how the hell did you score the hottest girl in our entire school? His perverted question earns him a karate chop to the forehead by Ishido, who turns back to the taller woman from the question with teeth baring into a wide grin. But yeah, how juicy are the details? There's no juice, we just met before school started and kept in touch, she answers, fighting off her obvious blush. Look, let's get to talking about the agenda. This leads to a shrug by many as they get their books out. Since the midterms take place before the sports festival, we need to prepare our bodies and our minds. That is why I have prepared a study plan so no one fails the midterms. Iida nods his head while cupping his chin in agreement. Such a great class president, going out of her way to make sure her classmates pass. What about the sports festival? This comes from the open mouth from Shoji's arm. A single study plan won't be able to suffice for everyone's quirks. Of course not, she replies, answering the big guy's question. That's why I've asked for Izuku to come here. The Pink Ranger glances at Izuku and then Momo, as if she sees more than what they're letting on. Already on a first name basis, huh? I told you, it's not like that. The rest of the group leans in looking towards the secret vigilante, or at least some of them. Kirishima glares staring at him all over. You sure? He doesn't strike me as someone who'd be able to help. He doesn't look like much. This is added from Shoji. Don't be fooled, Kaminari says in his defense. The blonde with the black lightning bolt goes to Izuku patting his back. He may look lanky, but he's pretty damn smart. He gave out a lot of helpful advice to Yamomo, even though he's pretty much quirkless. Quirkless Izuku cringes hearing and seeing the class of one turn to him with pity, as he expects with any and everyone he's ever told concerning his previous status. You're quirkless, and you tried to join a hero school. 2 fingers on her lips do little to prevent Kami from guffawing. That's like so adorable. You think life is a fairy tale. As mean as that was, Izuku decides not to be deterred and provide assistance. But first, he needs information. Well, first things first, what are your quirks? Me. Kami goes first, unleashing a cool mist from her mouth. It rises until filling the room and forming the shape of a giant fly trap. It opens its mouth and lunges down upon Izuku, before dispersing upon contact with the slightly frightened boy. Seeing the stupefied face he sports, the blonde giggles. Glamour, I can make illusions that look and sound as real as a punch in the face. Of course, that makes sense to him. It's no wonder his spider sense didn't activate because it wasn't real. Kirishima snaps a finger before his muscles tense up and his right arm hardens. My quirk is hardening. It's not as flashy as hers, but it gets the job done. That's not true, Izuku speaks, thoughts arousing from the spiky Reteed's quirk. I think it's great being able to tank anything that comes your way. If you can continuously increase how hard you can become, All Might would have to hit you seriously. As he contemplates that thought, the spider lad turns to Kami. As for your quirk, it seems to me you can use that for diversions and misdirections, kind of like a magician. Heck, you could team up with someone and perform illusions that feel real when your teammate fights. I prefer ninja, but that's not a bad idea. The glamorous girl's eyes begin to shine as she thinks further. Or, he believes she is. The magic ninja, now that sounds like a franchise. Momo pats his shoulder. She's hard to describe. How about me? Ishido points to herself with a giddy smile. As she starts laying on her quirk, the rest of the group aside from Bakugo watch on as Izuku gives his advice, joined with Iida, who studies him unknowingly. Later. Black Cat can be seen walking along a sidewalk with a rabid hound dog sniffing the ground with extreme prejudice. She scratches her head looking at her canine companion, as his vapid body language is scaring the people around them. Are you okay? His response is another assortment of ruffling and growling, causing the white-haired woman to sigh. I couldn't understand that at all. Sorry, he suddenly says, acting calmer now. We're getting close. This trail is fresh. The pursuit continues until reaching out to a familiar opening. Standing out before the two are the towering gates of the Hero Academia, UA High. A fact that surprises both of them when they notice that the scent is leading directly into that establishment. If we're here. I can't believe it. The weird dog snarls even louder and more furious realizing this. Spider-Man goes to my school. He throws the top to the ground. He's gotta be a student here. No faculty member would be dumb enough to double as an insect vigilante. Black Cat stands quietly watching as he storms inside, stepping over that costume. Sighing as she bends her knees to pick up the costume half, not at all upset about having to touch the now gross and moist thing, the feline stretches on the fabric. Considering the size, how it looked when he wore it, and how easily it stretches, he may not be wrong about the student thing. Inside of the facility, Izuku steps out of the room with Iida by his side guiding him across the halls. I guess the halls are so big because the heroes come in many shapes. Exactly. It's a long and well-documented history, especially with heroes in training whose base forms are too big for regular doors, he begins, going off explaining to Izuku about something he already figured. The halls are also equipped with cameras and sensors, so no intruders can get in, a feature that was increased ever since that incident earlier this week. I'm surprised the front desk was so latent to give you a visitor's pass. He shrugs at those words. I don't know about any of that, but I'm grateful they did. After hitting the bathrooms, the reason Izuku wanted to leave in the first place, the conversation continues. So, Midoriya, you tried to apply to UA before. Is that correct? Izuku gives him the answer, prompting this follow-up. I won't go into why you didn't pass, but I am curious. What inspired you to take the plunge in the first place? He makes a humming sound at that, not sure if he should tell the immediate reason or a half-truth. I don't know, you probably would think it's stupid. Nonsense. He thrusts his hand forward in front of him, all 5 fingers pointed at Izuku. Midoriya, everyone has a reason for being a hero, and the noblest of obliges allows one to reach the top. Even Mineta, as unwholesome as he, has his reasons and still made it in. At the same time, I'm not too glad about that idea you gave him. A hero's a hero all the same, is his reasonable response. Had he been aware that Grape Boy was such a vile pervert, he'd still advise him to use a slingshot to fire his grape balls. What about you? I'm just very curious about why you wish to be a hero. Well, I did say everyone wishes to be a hero. Most of the failures are because of people who just wish to use their quirks. I know from this rude fellow during the entrance exams I was in who used rocks, and being quirkless, I know that's not the case for you. So, what for do you wish to be a hero? His words, now lacking in the loud tone he normally abates, ring it home with honest sincerity. Iida does want to know about him. Hearing him, Izuku knows he should answer in kindness. Before he received his spider powers, before he met Uraraka, he did have a reason for being a hero. To prove that I can. His movements halt to where he now stands, gaining an audience with Iida. You're right. I was quirkless my whole life, and all I ever wanted was to show that I could be a hero. To me, all a hero needs is the desire to help others, he then huffs, looking down smiling. But I guess I was wrong, even All Might told me that you can't risk your life without power. Maybe if I had heard that earlier, things might have been different. That stands as his original reason. His other and more prominent reason is secret he'll keep to make sure no one finds out the truth. Then again, that's in the past now. So, ready to head back. Before they could, Izuku flinches, getting a look at Iida. With drops of liquid dripping on his shoes, eyes watery and overshadowed by light through those glasses of his, almost to the point of dexterity, he feels he took his words a little too much there. Such a beautiful devotion, his face drenches the sleeve of his casuals. If only you could have made your dream come true. Look, it's okay. Let's just get back to the others, he tells him, his heart skipping a beat from that. He couldn't believe anyone would show such care for his ideal. Maybe the two of them could be real friends. Eru. Down the hall this shout echoes throughout. The two almost jump out of their pants hearing the shouting and check down the corner to where the room they left was. To Izuku's shock, he sees Hound Dog entering through the door of their classroom, sniffing around. Iida smiles with pride seeing the pro hero. Why, that's just our lifetime guidance counselor, Hound Dog. But of course you knew who he was, what with your vast knowledge of Dawn. For some reason, between the time it took him to speak out his words about the canine hero teacher and turning around to speak to Izuku, he has already left down the hall about to make a corner. Heroes. Back with Izuku, he runs away from the action with a phone to his face. Why he's running? He's about to find out. Momo. Hello. He doesn't get an answer. But while power walking he hears shouting. It's down this way. With how gruff and rough the vocal was and the sound of quick movements against the floor, he realizes it's Hound Dog coming after him. Quickly he dashes into the bathroom. Back to action, Hound Dog peers an eye down the corner seeing someone entering the bathroom. He takes a big whiff of the air, barking, "It's him." With the ferocious tenacity a canine such as him is wont to, he barges into the men's room. He rapidly darts his head back and forth, searching for whoever is Spider-Man, before quickly hitting the stalls and coming across only one other person who is simply relieving himself. Really wish he hid somewhere else. Cringing as he sniffs he passes by the stalls, and all eyes shoot up at the open window high over most people's heads. He left. The dog man makes a mad dash for the exit, hot in pursuit. One stall opens up, and someone says, "Can't even do this here without someone breaking in." Outside of the building, Izuku can be seen walking towards the gate as casually as he twitchily could. Instead of a call, he sees he's gotten a text message. Checking after he hears that, he reads, "Hound Dog was here looking for, well, Spider-Man." "Oh boy," he says to himself as he picks up the pace. He texts back, "I saw him sniffing around, and for some reason, I had this impulse to run away." As he makes his way out, he gets a reply. "Then he must have your scent." Hound Dog has all the abilities of a dog, including a heightened sense of hearing and smell. "Get out of here." He doesn't have to think twice about that. Putting his phone away, Izuku walks off of school grounds still possessing his visitor's pass. He just needs to make sure no one spots him or finds him at all suspicious. As he leaves, just at his 9 o'clock he finds Black Cat standing outside of the gate. Seeing as she's there and not inside of the campus, he guesses she needs a visitor's pass as well. Looking back at the school, he thinks about why exactly she was able to get Hound Dog to track him here. He's got a strong sense of smell, but the realization then hits him, her tracer must have had a bit of cloth left on it and he used that to sniff him out. "I better get moving." He continues his trek nervously leaving the school grounds. Weird kid, he hears her say this just as he makes it to the sidewalk, going off until he reaches the nearest bus stop. Entering the bus, Izuku sits down and sighs with relief. That was close. His phone rings again, a quick check shows Momo's picture, so he answers. "Momo? Izuku, are you far away?" She sounds relieved and concerned. Also, there seems to be a bit of excitement coming from beside her. "We're friends. Of course, we share numbers. Plenty far. Just keep away for a while. We're all getting interviews right now." "Okay, thanks." She then hangs up, leaving him to dash for home. Elsewhere, Itsuki, his expression as fury-inducing as usual, comes around a corner and spots Hound Dog in the hallway, having a chat with Black Cat. He steps back to hide his presence. "Thanks for finally getting that visitor's pass. I wished alumni retained their passes." "It's standard procedure." Hound Dog shouts at her. "Why are you so obsessed with finding him anyway?" "It's my job," she replies. "This is what I do, ever since I became an agent, underground work that you public heroes wouldn't be able to do. And Tsukauchi wants him found before someone else does, not just for his vigilantism, but also for All Might." That triggers an actual change in behavior for Kitsuki as he listens. The catgirl says, maybe he's planning to have him join that group. That's stupid. It worked for those two. The bad luck woman glances down the hall quickly, noting no one where. "Besides, I actually wouldn't mind if he did. All Might believes he could be a true hero, and so do I." "You're starting to sound like your cohort." Now it's her turn to do a tomato impression. "She likes younger men, it doesn't count." "I'm gonna talk with him then. I still don't think he should get the chance." Hound Dog storms off. To be a criminal despite the law and quirk counseling one should receive when they receive their quirks is barkable. "You did that on purpose." Having heard enough, Bakugo storms away in a tranquil fury. All of what he heard about Deku sizzles his hands, almost ready to explode. All Might believes that little pebble could be a hero. He's nothing but an insect, a clown, the stand-up comedian to the main event. Tomorrow. Bright and early, Izuku rises ready to move. Sliding off his bed, he grabs his backpack and shirt before heading out his bedroom door. The day is the day. Today he finally fights Kaken. Well, he doesn't know if he's doing that, but this is Katsuki Bakugo he's thinking about. What other reason could they be meeting away from prying eyes at the Dagaba beach? In anticipation of this, Izuku takes his notebook with his former childhood buddy's quirk in it. Today is fighting day. "Izuku, are you heading out today?" asks his mother from within the kitchen as he comes out. "Yup. I shouldn't be out long." "Are you going to wear pants or go out like that?" Confused by that, he looks down at his bare legs and quickly goes back into his bedroom. He's dedicated to working out. After a quick readdressing of his attire, Izuku gets up and goes out the door with toast in mouth, chewing slowly. Waving back to his mom as she closes the door, he watches until it clicks shut, allowing him to break free and do what he wants. That is why he's running down the steps like a fairy light off its feet, practically gliding as he reaches the apartment exit and bursts out into the world. Dressed in similar clothes as yesterday, wearing a red All Might apparel shirt with a big guy's face on his chest as the only thing different, he dashes out of the house with a face of stern nervousness. Using public transportation, he takes a bus to the location, standing just outside of Dagaba Municipal Beach Park. Entering the scrapyard of garbage and broken electronics, he spots someone at the hut situated at the sea. He walks over, making a wave to Bakugo, his bully narrowing his eyes at him. "About time you showed up." The walking nuke walks forward towards him. "Akin, why did you want to fight here?" Izuku steps over some garbage as he questions him, wanting simple confirmation on his assumption. "You're still hiding your dumbest secret, aren't you?" He answers, before punching his palm, causing an ignition of his quirk. "Here, no one can disturb us." Eyes widened, Izuku once again becomes bedazzled at seeing Bakugo applying intelligence in a way he never thought about. This beach has been abandoned ever since it started getting polluted, and with Hound Dog remembering his scent, he needs to be as far away from that school as possible. If he isn't too careful, his secret will be out by summer. "That's a great plan, Kakin. Let's do it." Izuku tosses his bag aside and clenches his hands tightly into fists. The ash-blonde teen thrusts his hands aside as his palms illuminate yellow and red. "I've been waiting for this a long while. Prepare to die, you fucking nerd." That's not something a hero before he could see it coming. Bakugo explodes forward. His right arm stretches out to the side as he closes the distance between them. As he gets closer, Izuku realizes something is off before jumping up quickly to avoid an explosion, one that damages his left foot. "What's the matter? You're supposed to be faster than that, insect." Izuku steps back away as he comes in close, firing himself off forward with an explosion towards the spider vigilante. Judging the distance, he leaps over top of him in a flip, though while midair he watches Kakin stop himself short and flip in the air. With a twirl, he reaches him in the air and makes an explosive slap to his person. Izuku hits the ground, crashing through a pile of scraps. Covered in minor cuts and scrapes, Izuku rises, glaring at his bully standing atop a busted refrigerator. Looking up, Izuku realizes just how strong he's been getting since joining UA. But even more than that, he caught him off guard, meaning his spider sense does not work on him. "Oh, I see. I don't consider Kakin a threat. You better not be holding back on me. I can't knock you back down as the pebble you are unless I know I'm stronger." He clenches his hands. "I can't be the greatest hero unless I can take you down." It's rather surprising that he would be so honest about that. And yet, he feels there's more than just that. "Deku, why aren't you using your webs? You think I can't beat you at your best? You're not using your equipment, so I won't either. I don't want you complaining when I win otherwise." "Wait, those aren't real." Why does he sound so surprised? Oh, of course not. The battle then recommences as Izuku dashes forward, running up flat surfaces. Kakin stretches his right arm back into a swing. Here it comes. He jumps over and quickly turns invisible. This causes his opponent to turn around to strike, only to see nothing. Crap. He jumps down to the sand, looking around. Camouflaged, Izuku crawls towards the walking nuke with a smirk as he gets in closer from behind. "Don't think things will go your way, you damn nerd." He raises his hands and fires a blinding light that spreads throughout. With a shout of "stun grenade," the illumination stuns Izuku just enough for his camouflaging abilities to peel off and expose his true face. "Gotcha now." He jets towards Deku, the spider boy still recovering from the burning bride he suffered earlier, yet being able to see just enough to see him flying his way. His eyes already recovering from before, Izuku clutches his fists and throws a punch as he nears, missing when Kitsuki rockets upward over his back. His back is then blasted by an explosion, knocking him to the ground in a face plant. "I know how tough you are, Deku, and how strong you are. You want to be a hero? Fight me like one." Bakugo, his sweaty palms igniting the closer he gets, raises his hands preparing to fire at Izuku. "This is disappointing. Why the hell would All Might consider you a hero?" In a swift movement, Izuku flips himself up, knocking away Bakugo's hands and redirecting the explosions. While making his spider handstand, he spins himself, a nice kick planted to the side of his head, sending him towering to the sandy floor. Izuku watches as Bakugo quickly recovers and gets up, glaring with a shit-eating grin as he shouts, "That's what I'm talking about. Fight me." The spider kid watches as he stands, wiping away the blood from his nose. Knowing how much power he held back from that kick, he realizes just how tough his rival is. All he needs is a good strike. Bakugo jumps up and aims his palms, unleashing a powerful explosion that Izuku leaps away from easily. The spider boy lands on the door of a microwave and flips, using his wall-clinging power to lift and throw the door at his bully, hitting him in the face. He rolls over, hitting the ground until hitting a washer machine. Not giving him time to recover, Izuku dashes forth with fists clenched, ready to put an end to this battle. Midway he notes Bakugo recovering and using an explosion to dodge in the air. He keeps rocketing back to the other end of a mound of garbage and as our arachnid vigilante rushes at him. It doesn't take spider sense to predict the next event to happen. An explosion sends out all the scraps and garbage flying towards him. Just concentrate, see a way through, and move in. His legs propel him up, jumping through the many obstacles flying their way like a level in a video game, and quickly reaches him. How did his hand reaches out and grabs his right arm just before he could throw another blast. With a yell, he throws him down, slamming the boy into the trash so hard saliva flies up like a geyser. Izuku then lands on top of him, feet stepping on his wrists as he sits on top of his chest, hands either on his neck or stretched back to punch him. Now, yield. No, he growls, despite his injuries and glare. I've won, give up. No. Sparks riddle across his palms, blowing up everything underneath the blaster. This rockets him and Izuku high up, destroying the hold and position he had him. They enter a free-fall with the blonde just over Deku. I will not lose to you, Deku. I am the strongest. Still midair, he pulls away Bakugo's hand before he could make an explosion and throws a punch with so much force behind it, all that was visible in his eyes was the cleanest shade of white. As they descend, he quickly turns in midair and takes the fall for him. Fluids cough out of his mouth as he hits the ground, his back in pain. He tosses Bakugo aside onto some sand before sitting up, checking up on his former bully, patting his face. Nothing but a pulse, Izuku realizes what he did. Whoa, I knocked out Kaken. He sits back lying against the air, smiling with pride at his accomplishment. He pumps his fists up happily shouting, I did it. I'm not a worthless punching bag Deku anymore. He then drops down, squealing an ouch when his head impacts something, breathing a well-earned sigh of relief. That felt good. He lies on his back for a while taking in a happy grin. You should have done more. Izuku flinches as this thought comes to his head, sitting up. What? You held back the entire time when you could have done more damage. He hurt you as a kid, if you tried harder, you could have easily destroyed him. Izuku shakes his head at these thoughts. No. I'm not that type of person. I would never do that. But you want to, don't you? Izuku slaps his face, and soon his head stops producing these thoughts. Ugh, just in time, because he looks aside and spots his sparring partner waking up from his first nap. He sits up from where he lays glaring at Izuku. His eyes become bloodshot, teeth exposed and jittery, and hands sweaty and unable to stay still. You. Kaken, are you okay? He asks as words that repeat in his head over with remembrance of the past. But, instead of taking action he gets up with an angry huff. I can't believe it. Looking at his former bully, Izuku takes in a breath to force his thoughts away from the violent ideas he had just seconds ago. That was a pretty awesome move you did, I didn't know. Bakugo backs away from the spider, glaring at him intensely. Examining him, Izuku could assess it as him being wounded. It's fairly obvious why so. Turning away from Izuku, Bakugo grumbles out, I'm going home, in a sulking tone. Later. The two can be seen walking back into the city, the blonde's face morose and enraged, while the green-haired boy's expression is joyous. Izuku looks at his rival as they walk, ignoring the looks they receive for their damaged attire. The spider boy's face lowers, picking up how bad the battle's result was on Bakugo. He has only seen him that heart-wrenched once when he saved him from that sludge villain. How would he be able to quell that? So, Kaken. What's with you, Deku? He suddenly asks, catching the attention of the vigilante. Why are you still trying to be so friendly? Izuku looks to his violent former bully, nodding in agreement. As he thinks back to when they first met, his mind romanticizes those glory times. The time before they got quirks and that was all anyone ever cared about. The words come out. Kaken, you still get to be a hero, so why are you threatened by me? Who said I was? He barks back. The spider boy sighs. There was a time when we were friends, real friends, and not what you became when we turned 5. And on day 1 ever since you got a quirk, you've done nothing but put me down for trying to be anything more than what I was. Now that I have power I thought that could change, but instead, you're even more hateful to me, even to the point of challenging me to a fight just to see how I stack up to you. Even though you get to go to UA, you still find the time to come check up on me. That's why I think you're threatened by me, yet it's not clear why. It stings me is all. He replies angrily, surprising the boy and causing him to jump back. I can barely understand what you're thinking. Because you're fucking right, I've treated you like shit the entire time, and you never went away. You're always following me, thinking way too much, pretending you could be a hero even though you're quirkless, and acting like some stupid ass cinnamon roll. Even back then. Of course, Izuku knows he's referring to the sludge villain. And now that you've beaten me and proven that you could have been a hero, he grits his teeth. You act like we're all buddy-buddy. Like nothing that happened between us ever did. "It's not my fault you hate to lose," is his reply. "You shut up." Bakugo shouts angrily, frightening him and everyone around them. Soon people start walking away, including those who were interested in this conversation. "I don't need to hear you tell me what I already know. Pakin, I'm just saying." "Well, don't just say." He then storms ahead, leaving him behind. Frustrated, Izuku continues to follow despite possible death. Knowing it might not help, he speaks anyway. "I've seen you lead with the right hook enough times to count them. I've written down information about amazing quirks and their owners in that notebook of mine. The same one you burned and threw out the window last year. And you're one of the first ones I've written down." Those scarlet orbs turn over to him. "I try to be friendly to others because I want to, because that's what I believe being a hero is about, not by just being the strongest. I didn't beat that shoulder guy by being stronger than him, and I wouldn't have gotten hurt in that fire if I was the strongest." "Don't try to make me feel better," Bakugo replies as they continue walking. "All Might sees you as a potential hero, and he may not be wrong now, so what does that make me?" Izuku looks aside with a throaty laugh. "I guess, the guy who inspired me to work harder. I said stop trying to make me feel better." Hands up, Izuku backs from his latest yell. As Bakugo moves forward, he makes a quick turn around shouting, "Don't forget, Deku. I'm going to be the greatest hero. You may have evolved from being a pebble, but now you're a bigger rock to brush up against and turn me into a jewel. If you want to keep winning, don't leave a mark on me." With that, Bakugo finally makes his exit, heading for home. The intrepid boy watches him leave, as well as everyone else whose peace was disturbed by his screaming, and sighs. "Well, Momo said that after this I should try to put him out of my life. Now that may be impossible. If this isn't proof that he's redeemable, then nothing is." Despite everything he said, those words sound more like the Kakin only he remembers, and it makes him glad to know that he's back. Maybe things can go back the way they were. But that can be saved for later. How's he gonna explain the wounds to his mom? As Izuku goes to explain himself to his doting mother, not fun, Bakugo returns home. There, he spots his doting mother awaiting him. "Itsuki, what the fuck happened to your dumbest this time?" On second thought, the narration is a liar. This is his real mother, which is him if he was a hot mom sans the quirk. Itsuki. Bakugo approaches her child, checking all the bruises on his abrasive face. She eyes the one left by Izuku's punch before she examines his eyes. She says, "It looks like someone knocked some sense into you. Let go of me, you old hag." His words are rewarded by a slap to the head. "The fuck you say, I oughta knock some more into you." The woman grabs his ear and pulls him away. "Let's go treat those wounds." "Ow. Fucking let go." He shouts as he squirms in her grasp. "These aren't wounds, they're reminders." Itsuki looks back at her son, a small smirk on her face. She's almost proud of whatever happened. "Still, of all the things I swallowed that night." Over in a lab, a lone person sits in her seat. The lights in whatever room she is in long since gone out. This girl checks out a video clip featuring the talk of the town Spiderman. It shows from amateur footage him swinging in the air. She pauses the video at a certain point and stares at the webbing coming from his wrists. A pen scribbles on a book as a smile graces her comely canvas face. She mutters, "So, not really, huh?" Chapter 11. The Friday after USJ. Hiru sits in her seat, eyes focused on the video recording on her phone as the rest of the class gets going for home. Her cheeks flush a light red, seeing the spectacular Spider Boy fighting against trapezius headgear. A smile rises on her face when he takes a gash for someone. "Oh, it's Spider-Man." She jumps up suddenly out of her seat when he hears the sporadic voice of Kaminari just over her shoulder. "Kaminari." Her earlobe rises to his face, forcing the boy to cower back away from her. "Why were you sneaking up on me?" "I was just curious. I didn't think you were into him." "I'm not." She gets up from her seat and begins walking away, taking her backpack with her. Those cheeks retain that rosy shade as she walks off. As she walks, she bumps into Momo, accidentally dropping her phone. She turns even redder seeing the beautiful rich girl, saying, "Oh, sorry." "It's okay, Jiru." She glances down looking at her phone and notices Spider-Man on her screen. "You're watching the video too?" "And no. I just happened to see it," she replies, her earlobes frizzing about. She power walks away. Holding a curious expression on her face, Momo walks up to Jiru, saying, "It's okay if you like him. I often watch his videos too." "It's not that." Momo sighs before asking, "How do you feel about Izuku?" She suddenly stops, turning around making sure she heard her right. "Midoriya." "Yes." She curiously stares, trying to understand what would prompt that question. What does he have to do with Spider-Man? What would I feel about him? He's kind of a dork. I mean, no offense, his ideas are sound. You really shouldn't have heels for your hero suit, but I don't think much of him. I see. Jiru flinches seeing her next movement. She had to squint a bit to see it as she turns to the side pinching her bottom lip, but it looks to her that Momo was smiling. It's like she's relieved. Sorry for taking up your time. I'll go and leave you be. A thought then occurs to her. Wait. The creation woman turns around to her friend. Can you do me a favor? That is how Jiro ends up walking down the streets, carrying a black t-shirt her size with a spider symbol in an olive shade, cradling it like it was precious cargo with a wide grin on her face. Thank you, Momo. At the same time, she can't help but think about that odd question. To her it's fairly obvious she sees Midoriya as more than just a friend, but why would she suddenly bring him up? She can't help but feel there's a deeper connection. But, she can't think of one. Even as she steps inside of her house and opens the door she can't figure it out, Midoriya acts nothing like Spider-Man. From what she's seen in their soul meeting, he's geeky and awkward, a practical superhero fanboy. He likes heroes and quirks, and that's it. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I mean, he's quirkless. The good 3 days have gone by since that Sunday. With cloudy skies overhead to the point where blue and silver are the only things visible of the heavens. A chill of a summer breeze blows as the students of Jyaku High. Izuku walks down the hall with a sigh, watching a video of All Might's latest performance stopping a bank robbery. A part of him becomes happier as he witnesses the hero taking action, glad that he doesn't need to dress up every night. Still, he does miss going out to do that. Yo, if it ain't Deku. Cringing at that statement of a nickname, he turns around to see Shimura coming up to greet him. How's it hanging, Shimura? He asks, turning an eye to the brunette sophomore as he approaches him. He notices a bitten apple in his right hand. Just fine. Been wondering if you'd like to hang out, as I asked. The guy grabs his shoulder and brings him in close. If that's okay. Sure. I'm pretty free. Shanghaied, the Spider Kid walks with his new partner towards the city. As they do, passing by crowds and more people who happen to notice them, the vigilante notices a police chase in progress, with Kamui Woods riding atop a cop car to the scene. Ooh. Kamui Woods. Izuku says with cheek to eye, rose-faced excitement. Shimura groans as they move on. He says, hey look, I know you like those guys and all Deku. Can you please not call me that? He solemnly asks. What? It fits you well. Shimura then pats his shoulder. Anyway, I know you like heroes and what they do, but I can't stand what they represent. This is odd to him. What does that mean? His crimson eyes glare at the younger boy. Society. He grips hard on the apple in his hand, crushing it slowly. Heroes are gods in this world, and we're completely at their mercy. Could you imagine if All Might, as perfect as he is, had a change of heart and decided to rule over us? And no one could stop him. He represents everything I hate about this world. Before half a minute could be up, the apple drips out of his hand. Well, curious if that's part of his quirk, Izuku can't focus on that at the moment. It's just that his honest feelings about heroes feel so dark, so depressing. Why does he hate All Might so much? So, let's hit the arcades. I wanna play Tamura Games Lit Funeral. Shimura takes him off for the busier district. Later. As the day turns to night, Izuku by himself heads for his apartment complex. Upon reaching home, he spots that familiar limo just outside, with Momo standing just outside the car. Momo? Hey Izuku. I just wanted to drop this off. She hands him a paper bag. Opening it up, he peeks inside to see a brand new version of his spider costume, once again black and green. As much as I would like for you to stop, I know you wouldn't want to. He takes the gift in wholeheartedness, looking at his lovely friend with an ear-to-ear grin this time. She is such a great friend. Thanks, Momo. It's okay, that's what friends are for, helping and supporting one another. Good day to you. She re-enters her limo, the door appeared open just enough to deliver her final message. Oh, you can make it up to me by buying me lunch this Saturday. Okay, sure. He says, agreeing to the arrangement as the car takes off. Seconds afterward it starts to hit him, and in the most exaggerated expression of bewilderment, he didn't know he could muster shouts, wait, what? And he remains that way as she leaves, unable to comprehend what that underlying offer means. He just accepted a date. No, I'm overthinking it. There's no way. Heading up to his apartment home, he enters inside keeping that in mind. Unusual for today, his mom isn't home. But that's not too unnatural, it just means she's working late. Which means he's completely clear. As he drops his stuff in his room, Izuku takes the time to quickly change into his costume like always, stretching himself with joy as he feels the fabric stick to him closely yet extend so well for him. Good. It feels even better than the last one. She really improved. As Spider-Man, he closes his door and shifts his bed to make it so he was asleep in the bed, just in case she just so happens to come back before he does. With a confident smirk, he climbs out of his window and crawls out, swinging into the city with gusto speed. Ah. This feels so natural. Nose-diving into a swing to increase his speed, he swings through the city looking across the field below him. He lands on top of a flagpole looking down at the ground below him. I should be more careful though. I hope Hound Dog can't remember my scent. But I couldn't help myself from helping others even if I tried. He spots a purse snatcher running away from a lady giving chase. Well, time for me to go. Death Arms comes from around a corner and clotheslines the guy. Oh. Spider-Man moves on, seeing as a hero has this district covered. There is no point in him being around if there's already a hero after all. Swinging by, Izuku spots another location covered by Kamui Woods, who at the moment is using his wood powers to contain a mantis villain. Moving on. He swings to another location and sees Mount Lady on patrol. Since she's a giant, however, he ends up slamming into her face so hard they fall together. Kaya. Taken by surprise, she shrinks to normal size in midair. Spider-Man quickly reaches to catch her before she hits the ground, using webs to slow their descent. Pictures go off from her fanbase as she comes to, looking up at the vigilante on top of her while turning red. Spider-Man. She reaches to grab him even as he swings away. I'm so sorry. It didn't mean to hit you. And within moments, he's gone. To her dismay. She turns bright red watching him flee. One of these days. With her left behind, Izuku the spider continues to swing away looking for trouble to solve. I'm starting to think my quirk is bad luck. Ignoring his plight, he lands along the wall of a building looming down on the populace. He thinks about going around picking up trash like before, right before he spots a car speeding down the streets with the police giving chase. No heroes around. Guess I'll help. He nosedives into a swing-giving pursuit, glancing down below as he studies the vehicle being chased. It looks to be a red and black van with guys dressed in black clothes completely covering their appearance, almost like ninjas. The back of the van opens up, showing a man covered in a black cloak wearing a tan mask with bug-eyed visors shaped like cylinders. He takes out a bottle of bourbon and drinks it as the police cars swerve and end up crashing into each other. Whoa. What just happened? He continues to swing while turning around to check up on the police, noticing that the drivers appear to be groggy and drowsy. The spider makes a turn facing the car in front of him, keeping up the pace with the vehicle, despite having turned around earlier. That must be a quirk capable of making people confused or something. Spider-Man glares under his mask as he increases his speed, turning invisible before flipping in front of the van. He then stretches his arms, allowing his web wings to break free and pull him back. This allows him to land on the van with the least amount of noise, using his clinging power to stay on board. Yes. It worked perfectly. Thanks, Momo. He then crouches on the top as the van continues to make its move, leaving the city and reaching the forests on the outskirts of Musatafu, as well as the rest of Tokyo. The van continues taking him further up a cliff tip just above a river, the trail leading to a cathedral placed at its zenith. Why is there a cathedral in Japan? He then handwaves it mentally, remembering that there are more important things to worry about. He watches as the assumed villains get out of the van. Like he saw before, they're dressed completely disguised, including masks over their mouths that cover their hair with goggles that show green lenses. Alright, let's unload. We'll ditch the van and return you to Doro. Thanks. The man in the mask, who now has a name, takes a quick swig of his drink. His single word "well quick" is far more elongated than need be. No, thank you, says one of the men. To Izuku, he can hear a foreign accent, like an American whose third language is Japanese. It's always a pleasure receiving assistance from our partners at the Shai Hassaikai. Shai Hassaikai? He has never heard of that name before. But, with a name like that, he fears there may be more to this than simple thugs. Even the things they're taking out don't come across as the run-of-the-mill things regular thieves take, this being instead 2 burgundy jars sealed tight from top to bottom. As much as he wants to know what's inside, he shouldn't expose himself without knowing just what their quirks can do. To that end, he keeps himself invisible, waiting for the perfect opportunity to jump off. Though as he looks around, he notices something on the door of the van, a familiar black cat face no larger than a button. Seeing it, he realizes who's behind that. Black Cat. The men continue to move the canisters inside the cathedral, one stopping midway. As he does, he looks at his hand to see something has landed on it. He presses a finger to it and ends up falling to the ground. More needles fly out and hit the men pulling the canisters they've kept to themselves away. Soon they all fall, unable to move a muscle. All that's left is the man known as Dodoro, who looks around at the phone. What in the world happened here? He glances to the left and steps back, avoiding a sharp object sent flying at his face that misses a good 2 meters. What's that? A sniper. Further, in the woods, the masked man spots someone in the darkness with white hair. Getting closer, Dodoro gets a better look seeing Black Cat lying in the dirt. And he laughs. Usually, we get rats. This is the first time we ever found a cat. The dark-clothed feline lady glares up at her opponent, her body losing all equilibrium and forcing her down. What does this a quirk? Ghidorah leans his whole body to the right while pulling out a pocket knife. He chuckles under his mask and throws it, slicing her face and knocking off her white hair wig. An utter of, better not take any chances, might have rabies, walks hand in hand with another knife drawn out of his pocket. He raises his hand to deliver the kill, only for a sticky substance to attach the blade to his fingers. Confusion causes him to look at his hand and stare at the webbing. What's this shit? Ghidorah is then sent forward face-planting into a tree. After a minute of recovery, he looks back at the scene to see that Black Cat is gone. He grits his teeth and stands back up, going to his men to kick them. "Hey, get up," he shouts. "Go on full alert. And tell Kari about this." Elsewhere in the forest, up in the trees, Izuku and the Black Cat can be found hiding on a branch. She looks at her new companion and asks, "What are you doing here?" These words come in a muffle, so only they hear. He scratches his head. "I guess I was just in the neighborhood." A thought then occurs to Izuku as he stares at her, holding the wig that fell off in his hand. Wait, burgundy hair, cat appearance, a quirk that projects thoughts or you Mandalay. Exposed, the woman snatches back her wig and throws it on. "I'm supposed to find your identity and bring you to the police," she says, drawing her gun and aiming at him. Those browner eyes of hers focus onto him and his unreadable expression. "It puzzles me that you would save me. Because that's what a hero does." Black Cat keeps her eyes on him before putting the pistol away. As her weapon is placed on safety, the woman chuckles. "So that's what he sees in you? Huh? Never mind." She checks down below, noticing all of the lackeys who were out before are now looking for them. "You were invisible before, so they don't know you're the one who helped me." "Who are they anyway?" Izuku asks in a low voice, already used to whatever her quirk is that makes her do this. He'll figure it out eventually. She points down at a sole person looking for someone, taking out a whip and wrapping it around a branch. She dives down with it and grabs the man with her legs, wrapping her right leg around his mouth. The woman then chops it where his neck meets his body, before letting him drop. She then points over at the building up ahead, where the canisters have been taken in. "I'll tell you as we head over." The duo moves across in the trees, making their way over to the building. As they do, Black Cat watches the Spider Boy copying her movements as they traverse. Impressive. A year ago, astronauts found a rare mineral that landed on the moon. They call it ocelite. They land on top of the building as she finishes. "Oh, I read about that before," he whispers, remembering an article on scientific discoveries a year ago. Is that gonna contribute to the conversation? The two stop when they notice someone on the roof looking around. Using the speed appointed to him as an arachnid, Izuku fires a web line and pulls him quickly towards them, allowing Black Cat to strike him in the gut and throw him down. "I read that it can absorb vibrations or something. It was brought to Japan to be studied," he replies. "Oh, never mind then. I apologize for insulting your intelligence," she continues to creep down the hall. "It was, but the ocelite was stolen as it was coming here. The Yaoi Rozu family was supposed to study and recreate more of it with their creation quirk," she says in his mind. Creation, oh, that's right. Momo can make any non-living thing so long as she knows its structure down to the atomic level. Izuku crawls over to the side and pulls open the window leading inside, whispering, "And these guys are the ones responsible." Inside they see a room that becomes a betrayal to the rest of what they've witnessed. It comes across as a laboratory, features such as tables with chemicals and glass vials tipping them off. On their 10 o'clock a window bare for the landscape outside to be seen is there, showing the forest and river below. They climb inside as Black Cat continues the conversation. Of course. They're foreign assassins interested in its properties. But why now? Why move it at this point? As he remains on the roof, his cat friend flips over and lands on the floor gracefully, not a sound leaving her heels. To make everyone forget about it and have someone they can trust study it. The shy Hasekai are long-term friends of theirs. The unlucky catgirl glances up at him while crawling. In addition, there was something else stolen that might be dangerous the longer it's left in their possession, some black gel that was attached to it. Black gel. The two travel through the room in moderate darkness, the boy still on the ceiling keeping eyes on the world below him. "I've already contacted for backup, so my job now is to make sure they don't make off with any of the stolen goods." Spider-Man flips and lands onto the floor, his foot pressing lightly against the floor, almost testing it. His actions are watched by the lady in black spandex, who notes him being careful, all of a modern instance. "What are you doing?" Of course, he couldn't tell her directly. Like a veil of light burning down on him in the darkness, he can't help but feel something is off. That there's a danger in this room. Hopefully, she gets it. At that very moment his spider sense goes off, and he grabs Black Cat, jumping away in shock when the sound of a high-frac sound blast comes his way. The glass beakers in its path explode while the tables are burrowed down to the floor in the blast zone. "Damn it. I almost got them." Spider-Man raises his head to look behind a table, where a villain stands with a boombox inside of his chest. Next to him is the man in the mask, saying, "Dodoro, you're up." Badit speaks the slur of the Shai Hasekai as he stumbles to the scene. He appears in the room standing in the open. "Barely. He's the one who can make us go off balance," says Izuku's feline partner as she peers up from their hiding spot. "We got to do something about him." Spider-Man prepares a suggestion before their hiding area is blown away once again. As splinters of the table they had ducked under are thrown everywhere, Black Cat jumps up grabbing items in her utility belt before she throws them out. From his perspective, he can see their shuriken shaped in the form of claws. They fly through the air like bats in disarray towards the two villains, all but one hitting the wall or floor. That sole one impales itself into Dodoro's mask. Izuku watches Dodoro's hand reach up to pull it off, leaving his kitty friend time to jump up and stretch a hand to the right and claw the incessant drunkard. He then notices her dropping just behind him, slipping on her face due to his quirk. Dodoro whips his head spouting language translated only for a more adult audience, before he throws his mask to the floor. What the hell was that about? It's his quirk. He can somehow make us weak and off balance on sight. Thinking about her words and the knowledge he knows of him already, the human spider gets up from his hiding spot. An idea comes to mind as he formulates a plan to defeat this villain first. "I hope this works." Following his super sense, he quickly dodges the sound waves of the boombox villain shooting at him while firing webs to plug his face up. From this, Spider-Man lands in a crouch facing Dodoro, watching him take out a series of knives ready to be used. In his sloshed speech pattern, he says, "Getting ready for your final cut, insect. Ah, I've squashed bigger bugs than you for breakfast." Our emerald protagonist remains calm, not letting him know of his strategy. Raising his hand to point to the ceiling, he says, "Spiders are not bugs." His spider sense goes off, and he quickly tilts his body back to avoid the knives thrown at him from behind. "Why the hell," mutters his enemy, though with his sloshing Izuku could barely hear him. Taking a chance, the spider boy jumps over to the drunk man, flipping forward into a dropkick that strikes his chest so hard the villain stumbles backward and falls back over top a table that managed to survive the destruction of the others. Izuku crouches on the table listening in on his voice, recognizing the painful groan associated with a loss coming out of Dodoro's lips. "How did you do that?" Black Cat asks, her tone higher and her words spoken with confusion. Most likely she wants to know how he pulled that off. His senses trigger again, but before he could act in time, Izuku gets blasted into a wall, courtesy of the boombox guy's soundwave attack. He storms over before kicking a chair aside, ripping off a leftover piece of webbing on his face, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry for not waiting my turn. But don't worry, I'll put you out of your misery." Groaning, Izuku slaps his ears, trying to pop them to regain some measure of sound back into his eardrums as his attacker rotates around him. "How about putting me out of my mystery? Who are you?" "Call me Chikaku, because that's the last thing you're gonna be hearing." After touching a dial attached to his left glove shaped like a watch, the now named villain Chikaku aims Spider-Man. Though before he could, a bladed shuriken in the shape of a cat head pierces into the man's dials. Sparks release from Chikaku's glove as all around him is silent. Even as Chikaku stumbles backward with his mouth open, holding his ears as if he is in pain. No sound. Getting closer, he watches Soundman drop to his knees, still clutching his head, before firing webbing to pull off his gloves. He then throws a powerful punch, slamming his fist into his cheeks, knocking him face first into the floor. Once down, Izuku reaches down and pulls out his dials before providing a web cocoon. Izuku turns around and faces his partner, who gives a thumbs up following her assist. With him gone, Spider-Man pushes himself up, feeling the ringing slowly ending. He can tell because he can hear Black Cat calling his name, faintly like it's from a distance. The feline in leather tights crawls towards him, asking, "Spider-Man, are you okay?" "My ears hurt from that," he replies, a little louder than usual. He notices Dodoro groaning as he's also starting to recover, so he webs him all up similar to Chikaku. The beautiful cat heroine steps towards the boy in tights as he concludes wrapping up the villains. She speaks aloud, "How were you not affected by his quirk?" He can tell she's curious about how he managed to keep his balance, so he best let her know in case he breaks free. "Simple, I kept my eyes closed." Noticing the surprised look on her eyes, widening her lids and the rest of her face, he elaborates. "I noticed that his quirk worked only when we were looking at him, otherwise we would have lost balance earlier. The only way to win was to use my other senses. Or in my case, the spider sense." He smacks his mouth shut at that last blab. He probably shouldn't have said that, especially around villains who may hold a grudge. "Well. And here I thought you were just some ordinary vigilante," she says, his ears picking up on how impressed she is with him. The lady turns her eyes up to where the exit is. "Go up and stop them from taking the ocelite, I'll make sure they don't go anywhere." Looking at Black Cat, Izuku gives her a nod before running up the steps quickly. Climbing the steps he comes to a hallway before turning left to see the entrance to a collection of pews where people would come for worship. Turning right he spots the door to outside he saw earlier. As they make their way there Izuku notices something loud, an effective sign of his hearing coming back, coming from up above. He peers out from a crack and spots a Black Hawk helicopter descending from above. There are also 4 men carrying the 2 canisters from before. Waiting, he contemplates his circumstances to come up with a plan and immediately assesses 2. He could A. Jump in and attack going wild and beating them all down before webbing them up, or B. Well, he could just steal the canisters and run away with them until help finally arrives. Thinking it over, plan A sounds simpler, and with his senses, he can avoid any sneak attacks they may shove his way. Alright, Izuku. Don't let up now. Using his camouflage, Izuku runs outside before shooting a web line to attach to the canister and pulling it off the helicopter. It lands on top of one of the scrubs and cracks against his rugged and pointed shoulder. The canister rolls along the grass until stopping due to a pebble in its path. A dark ooze squeezes out of the opening until it makes a puddle. Back to the action, the man turns to Izuku in anger and charges him with his shoulders ready to grind through him. Our emerald spider of a protagonist jumps up in the air and on top of him avoiding his assault. He then throws a downward punch at the man's back, striking the part of his spine where it connects to his neck and body. He tumbles face forward like damaged bricks. Victorious, Izuku jumps off before the man could hit the ground going into a crouch. He then notices the 3 others drawing their sabers and charging at him. Better web him up. He aims his arms to fire webs, only for a short sputter to come out. After I recharge. No other alternative in sight, Izuku turns invisible and dodges their swords. He backflips over to the busted canister without noticing, before lowering himself up in a crouching position to replace his web cartridges. His focus prevents him from noticing the black ooze that he stepped in from the canister. That absorbs into his body before he could be the wiser. With his web shooters refilled, Izuku becomes visible again and fires 2 shots at 2 of their faces to effectively blind them. He then moves to the last guy and passes by him, performing a lariat move to slam him into the ground. Before that guy could lose consciousness, the spider boy jumps up to perform a split kick to knock the other 2 out. He glances up when the helicopter takes off, the other canister still left inside. Oh right. He fires a shot and pulls out the second canister inside, grasping it with both hands easily once it falls out. Phew. Taking off quickly the chopper goes, abandoning the assassins to their fate in what the young spider boy assesses as a smart move on their part. Cutting their losses, huh? It's just up their alley. Izuku turns around to spot the dark feline carrying the 2 villains with her. The helicopter disappears into the distance, its blades no longer in earshot. What they do hear are sirens ringing in the distance coming their way. To that, Izuku begins to panic, knowing that the police are more than likely to arrest him. You better run, insect. She then nudges her head aside and taking the hint he jumps into the shadows. Watching him go, the black cat takes out her phone and presses the speed dial. Hello? Elsewhere? Yes. Thank you for that. I'll inform them right away. I'll see you later. Yagi hangs up his phone. As he does he checks seeing he received a message. Good. He got my message. He also notes more and those tiny eyes of his rise higher. Later. With the police having collected the foreign villains, Black Cat can be seen watching them go back to the city. She sighs with relief at a good job down before heading to the forest, where she spots a black motorcycle hiding from plain sight. There amidst the trees and leaves is her vehicle, as well as the vigilante sitting on top of it. He holds one of her many cat shurikens in hand as he stares at the sexy woman. He stands. They're gone. Yup. The police took the stone and the men with them, but whatever that gel was is gone. It must have been absorbed in the ground. But he faces aside before turning to her. Black Cat, thanks for helping me out back there. I should be the one thanking you. The feline can't see his face, but she can tell he's distressed. What's wrong? It's super late, he replies, checking the time on his phone briefly. In his mask, he sweats bullets. What's wrong? Mommy got you on a curfew? Actually, yes, he replies, slapping his mask mouth for his idiocy. He can be so honest sometimes. Well, I could give you a ride and an excuse to dearest mother, Black Cat offers, narrowing her eyes to him. If you don't mind me coming inside your home. You know, it's not that far to the city, he quickly says before checking his distance. Before you do that, she reaches up and grabs his mask, lifting it just over his nose. Of course, with Izuku's hands on top of hers, she could only go that far. She then leans in, before pulling back leaving her lipstick marked on his face. See you again, Spider-Man. And thank you for being a hero. Black Cat sits atop her motorcycle and takes off. The leather-clad beauty glances back at the boy as he leaves, her eyes narrowing. I wish I could know, especially now. He watches as she makes her exit, his face a beet red after that last course of action she performed on him. Good night, Mandalay, an incredibly beautiful woman just kissed him. No, a former hero that he looked up to for a while kissed him on the cheek. Momo's lips felt just as soft, but there was something exotic about hers. But as he thinks about her, he also remembers his situation. Groaning, he takes in a deep breath and runs as fast as he could down the road. Checking his phone strapped behind his waist, he checks the time as he paces. Oh, I hope mom isn't in yet. It'll be harder to explain if she finds me in this. Along the way, he smiles with some form of pride thinking about his latest accomplishment. He managed to stand up to foreign villains and gain the respect of a hero who's been after him for so long. Maybe if he does hard enough the police can overlook his actions, a thought pattern he's had since starting his vigilante gig. As much as he would like to become a hero, this is all he can do. All these thoughts come to a head as he enters Musatafu and reaches his apartment complex because thinking about being a hero reminds him of what his mother said. If she didn't want him to become a hero, she would never approve of him being a vigilante. Reaching his block, he sneaks towards the building in the shadows before climbing its height, where he reaches his room's window at its zenith. He opens the window and slips in, checking around to make sure no one is around and his room door is closed. He closes the window and slips off his clothes, stripped down to his underwear and then throwing on PJs. He checks the window noticing his face still sports the black kiss. I better get rid of that. To that end, he opens his door to enter the bathroom. Izuku. What oh? His mom is standing on the other side of the door down the hallway, staring at him. Her expression is a strange one he isn't sure of. Her eyebrows are lowered, narrowed with her eyes, her mouth curves downward into a frown, and from what he can see she looks blue. Mom? Don't scare me like that. Like how you're scaring me? Her response shakes him. I've been in your room. You've been gone all night doing God knows what, and I'm here sitting around worrying about you getting a heart attack. He waves his arms. Mom, it's not what you think. And what is it? She asks loudly. Her eyes cloud over with tears that start to freshly fall. You shouldn't be out anyway, you don't have the means to protect yourself. You're all I have after your father left. Please don't make me worry so much. The boy's eyes glaze over with understanding and remorse. He didn't mean to worry her like this. Is this why she didn't want him to be a hero? Was she that worried about him? You're grounded. From now until next week, no, until I can trust you again, you are to come straight from school to home and back. No coming home later than 6 p.m. Do you understand? I do. He can't argue, not after making her worry so much. She means that much to him. Maybe he should tell her the truth sooner than he expected. Now, get yourself cleaned and go to bed. I don't even want to ask about that kiss. Elsewhere. Ugh. The black cat lies her busted motorcycle, along with a flickering light from an emotional street lamp. She stares face forward at the circle of flames in front of her and the metallic claws that grip her by the chin. Let go of me. She barks at her assaulter. A device is held in front of her, scanning. The man drops her before turning to leave. As he walks away, Black Cat draws out her pistol and aims, firing a tracking cat pin. The man turns around quickly and slices it into pieces, delivering unto her shock and horror. Spider-Man is next. Make sure to tell him that. He then jumps off into the night. Black Cat grinds down on her teeth, her white hair wig has fallen off. She sits against her broken motorcycle, muttering, the Society of Assassins have a new target now. Chapter 12. Early into that morning, Toshinori Yagi sits with his friend Tsukauchi in the security hall of UA, where a small bear mouse-like animal comes before them. He hands a list of names on a clipboard. The detective receives it, saying, thanks for doing this for me. No problem, says the white-furred creature of sentience. I must say, it's impressive you're doing this as well as searching for the villain alliance. But here you go, a list of every person who has been given a visitor's pass from the start of the year to now. Tsukauchi looks over the 40 names with a smile. Great. With this, we'll be able to pinpoint the identity of Spider-Man with the clues we have at our disposal. Though it'll probably take a while if we interview all of these people. Wait, the deflated symbol of peace takes the board and looks it over. One name out of many grabs his attention. I remember this name. Flashback. Oh no. I'm out of time. I need to get away from this boy quickly. Oh, too late. I'm losing steam. Because I don't have a quirk, well, maybe that's not the only reason. But I've always been picked on because I'm quirkless, that's why I think saving people is just about the best thing a person can do. I want to save people like you, with a fearless smile that brings hope. I want to be the best hero, just like Waiweya, he sees me. You're all shriveled up. What happened? Are you an imposter? It's not surprising he thinks so. I am All Might. I can feel the blood coming out of my mouth. You're bleeding. Calm down, I tell the boy, who seems mildly disappointed. You know how people hold in their gut at a pool. I'm kind of like that. Mind blown. Taking a seat, I stare down at myself. A fearless smile. Well, I might as well tell him the truth. Maybe this will finally deter him. You've seen the real me, kid. But don't write about this on the internet. I've got a reputation to uphold after all. With my left hand, I raise my shirt, giving the boy a full view of my chest and the scar from that day. 5 years ago I fought an enemy who did this. My respiratory system was nearly destroyed and my stomach was gone. This is the most I can do with the surgery that's been given to me, and now I can only do hero work for 3 hours a day. I notice he's stunned, looking as if thinking. 5 years ago? You mean Toxic Chainsaw? That lowlife? No, but it's cool that you're well informed. I can't tell him the full truth. This was never made public because I asked it not to. A symbol of peace who saves people with a smile must never be daunted by evil. I smile to stave off the overwhelming pressure and fear I feel whenever I go out there. Looking back at the boy, I ask, what's your name? Bakumo no, Deku no, damn it. Way to kill the mood, kid. Kind of feels familiar. Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya, a pro should always be ready to risk his life without fear. You may not be able to smell it, but you can see and hear fear, and that's why I want to say no. You should not become a hero without power. I can tell that's not what he wanted to hear. There's just this broken look on his face that even kills me. And it hurts so much having to say it. If you would like to help people, becoming a cop works. Those villain custody officers are mocked, but without police assistance, we're nothing more than criminals taking the law into our own hands. I think it's time to go. I need to deliver this bug villain to the authorities. Maybe I should leave this piece of advice for him. It's not wrong to dream, Midoriya, but you need to be realistic. That was the last time I heard of or saw him, until now. Then flashback. With all of this in his mind, Toshinori lowers his head and closes his eyes, already coming to a single conclusion. Turning to his law enforcement friend, he says, Tsukauchi, you no longer need to search for Spider-Man. Both the animal and the detective turns to the blonde male, the former saying, you know who he is. Yes. The following morning, Izuku wakes up with barely a wink of rest. His high stamina aside, waking up so soon to his usual wake-up time. He wobbly gets dressed for school before throwing his costume in his backpack along with his school books. Passing by his mother as she eats from the breakfast spread on the table. He joins her eating for himself. As they do, not a single line of dialogue comes from either's throats. Knowing this can't be, Izuku swallows a glob of rice before saying, Mom, I'm sorry I made you worry like that. I'll be home late today as well. If you want to make up for it, I expect you to call me before 6 to let me know that either you're home, heading home, or running late. Try to avoid that last one. She then finishes before finishing her plate and placing it in the sink. Make sure you're on time today. Love you. Inko moves in a rush to kiss his cheek before leaving out the door. Izuku, still eating, muses with a smile how despite all that she still loves him dearly. He should do something nice for her. After finishing his meal and cleaning up, Izuku heads out the door with stumbling exhaustion, one less than before. Though as he exits, he stops at the front of the apartment building before a woman. This redeed, who looks to be twice his age, immediately catches his attention. Looking into her brown eyes, he shouts out suddenly, you. She blinks in surprise at his sudden outburst. Hello, Spider. Heartbeat moves a mile a minute. A wide and red lake surrounds emerald pearls that he calls eyes. His face gives the impression he was swimming. You found me. Izuku Midoriya, at 4 p.m. head to the location of that burning building. You saved those people before. Make sure you wear your costume as well. The woman then gives him a bow and walks away. Sweating enough to bloom a garden, Izuku starts to panic. She didn't exactly say it, but he knows something bad will happen if he doesn't show. At best, a hero could arrive to tell him to give up his vigilantism. At worst, he's getting arrested and destroy any faith his mother has in him. Sighing, he decides on a plan of action. I better do this right. With school over, Izuku quickly hides in the bathroom to change into Spider-Man. Dressed up finally, he changes his web capsules and climbs out the bathroom window swinging into the city. Landing on the side of a building, Izuku checks his phone for the time, 3:50 p.m. He then climbs up the side of it heading for his location. Before he could ponder what this is about, he glances back quickly when he hears footsteps approaching him. Well, if it isn't the Spider-Man. He turns around to see Mount Lady in giant form standing behind him. She grabs the ledge and shrinks, allowing her to land onto the ceiling before our olive and black protagonist. I've been meaning to see you. Look, if this is another attempt to catch me then you can save it, he tells her. Izuku doesn't have time to put up with her. I've been meaning to thank you for helping me before. The lady walks towards him, each step a mighty swerve that catches his hormones. Hey? She then quickly reaches up to caress his face, her mouth smooching his underneath the mask. Taken in shock by this action, the boy becomes a tomato underneath his mask before suddenly pushing her back. What are you doing? What are you doing? He replies, still surprised by her action. Look, I know you're a vigilante, but that shouldn't change what we could have. She moves in closer, tiptoeing her fingers up his chest. Then again, one of us could quit and actively start this scrumptiously promising relationship. Again, he pushes her back, and again she doesn't let up. Oh, come on. Don't deny there's something between us. With these costumes, we're heroes and criminals, but take them off, we're regular people who can eat at fancy restaurants and share a love hotel. What do you say? As tempting as that is, he has a prior engagement that prevents him from even considering taking advantage. Also, someone else has gotten his eye. That is why he sighs and jumps away, quickly swinging for his location. Meanwhile, Mount Lady stands with a sigh. Damn it, he's married. Izuku continues swinging through the air, reaching behind him to grab his phone. Before he does, his senses go off. Oh. Wait, I made sure to refill, so what is oof? With no time to react, Spider-Man gets grabbed midair and taken across the skies. Dropped down onto the roof of a building, the dark green Spider Kid picks himself up, his eyes at the stars. He erects himself, sitting and facing his captor, a paragon of muscles with blonde hair and flashy blue and red spandex. His cape billows behind him in the twilight winds, turning around with that smile as proud as a lion's. The spider checks the yellow around the hero's hand, noticing a cloth of green and black clenched tightly. Uh-oh. Izuku touches his face, his eyes widening as his pupils dilate. It was you all along, Izuku Midoriya. All Might. He gets up, reaching for his mask, only for it to land just on his hand. I didn't think it was true, but the more I thought about it, the more I couldn't deter from the truth. His body deflates, showing his true self to the underage vigilante. You said you were quirkless. I don't know how to explain it, but when I was bitten by this spider, I somehow gained these powers. And some things happened, and if I didn't act, people could have. Toshinori takes a knee before Izuku as he explains himself. Wait, I can't be here. I gotta get to. I was the one who sent her to your home, he tells him. This causes a sigh of relief to expel, and an inhale of worry to be caught in his throat. Toshinori's sky eyes look into the pure forest of Izuku's, hoping for an explanation. Why did you become a vigilante? Izuku sits back, his second face dropped on his lap. It was the day of the entrance exams. The boy proceeds to explain how he received his powers and how he came to become Spider-Man, including why he was late to the entrance exams. Shameful eyes never left All Might following the denouement. And ever since you've been a part-time vigilante who goes to a regular school, I assume no one knows about your quirk, asks the adult. The boy shakes his head. I never changed my quirk registry before the entrance exam day. I was just so into discovering the new me that I forgot to update. And since I never got to the exam, I figured there'd be no point anymore. The only ones who know about this are you, Kaken and Momo. Kaken? Katsuki Bakugo. Oh, him do they? They also know I'm Spider-Man. Pretty easy to put together. Izuku puts the mask back on finally, hiding his embarrassment. Now comes the real question. What happens to me now? This is a pretty serious thing. Despite your intentions and reasons, you're still breaking the law. Even if I said nothing, one day they will find out and you'll have to take responsibility. All Might turns to face out towards the city down below. But the whole city saw you risk your life to pull people out of a fire and stopping a villain when no other hero could. Way before I found out about you, I've gone around and talked to the people you've saved. Instead of pining for your arrest, they're thanking you. That's why I wanted to personally speak with you and learn your intentions before the police made a decision. What kind of decision? The symbol of peace drops his head downward, returning to his muscular form. It's been over a century since quirks started developing throughout more than a few of the population, and a few years after did the first vigilante arrived. It was a couple of decades after that being a hero became an actual job. And yet, more and more youths like yourself wish to become a hero over any other duty. Do you know why that is? That's an interesting question. Well, isn't it because of the appeal? Maybe. But being a hero hasn't changed since the day it started, so that should have more than worn off since it's been done. Izuku pats his knee. Even though you were quirkless, you came to me hoping to become a hero. Your honest desire to save others is what appealed to me, what made me want to talk to you here and now. Izuku notes his expression, almost reminiscent of his mother's. If only I had seen that heart of yours sooner, then maybe things would have been different. Growing up quirkless you probably didn't notice, but being a hero means more to everyone than saving lives and stopping a crime. It's about being yourself. With that thought entering his brain, Izuku begins to think about it further. Theories then start to compile in his mind as he remembers some things. Being a hero is the only job where you're allowed to use the powers you were born with under the least amount of restraints, where you're granted the most freedom to be yourself. It's the same reason that villains exist, as well as why they're classified differently from normal criminals. Most of them seek to be themselves without wishing to abide by the law. I figured as much. To be a hero means more than just saving lives. While that's important, we also need to save the hearts of others. To do that, the public needs to believe in us, to have faith in heroes, which can't happen if we go all willy-nilly killing villains. Sometimes we have no choice, but villains are people no different than you or me. Izuku looks down at himself as he continues to listen. We'll meet again Sunday, and I'll help you become a true hero. Really? But I thought. The police are willing to show leniency as long as you agree to this apprenticeship. He holds 3 fingers up from the left hand. There are 3 ways to be a hero. One is to graduate from a hero course and earn a license through that, while the second is to be scouted by a professional and work under him. What's the third? It's got a long name, so let's just call it dual admission, which is what you'll be going through. He looks over at Izuku. I'll see you on Sunday at Dagaba Beach to explain your situation. And if you can, please prepare a costume that looks more colorful or holds a different appearance. Wait, All Might. The spider reaches out for him, stopping the Superman before he could leave. You said sometimes we have no choice. Has there ever been a time where you've had to? His answer amounts to All Might standing rock solid, an unwavering steel bond that tells more than our arachnid team could ever realize. With no words left, All Might disappears in a flash. I'll take that as a yes. Before jumping up when All Might makes his return. Oh, I almost forgot, your parents don't know, correct? No, he was expecting that. No, my mom doesn't. Then you better go tell her. We can't offer this if your mother objects. And now he disappears. Elsewhere, Momoyae Rozu exits a room with Iida while heading separate ways. She walks with a whimsical step, thinking further ahead in the week, or more specifically the weekend, and what it plans for her. Oh, she can't wait. Humming out of the building, the girl notices a loud noise off behind the school. Curious as her cat eyes leave one to believe of her, Momo heads over to where the noise is. She sees another explosion, where she sees at its epicenter is Bakugo. The explosive ash-blonde teen huffs and puffs as he grabs his arms, the veins on them ready to pop. He comes out of his minset to glance at the person who arrived, scuffing when he sees Momo. Oh, it's you. Are you okay, Bakugo? She asks him while approaching the boy. None of your fucking business. He barks, still rearing from the intense pain in his palms. Don't you have things to do? Nothing says I shouldn't look after my classmates, she responds, holding a hand to her mouth at the vulgar words he's using. Bakugo sits back on the ground looking up at her, before snapping, look, you don't have to force yourself to be nice to me, just because you have a fucking boner for Deku. No longer disgusted, Momo gains an erubescence across her face. Throat clearing starts her sentence. Ahem. I do not have a boner for Izuku. It's a pretty big one, spiky hair. Sneering adds to his response. First off, regardless of whether or not I have feelings for Izuku, that has nothing to do with why I'm speaking to you. Second, I probably wouldn't be able to be any nicer to you than this, even if he was a factor. The vein surges across his forehead, forcing him to say, the fuck's that mean? I don't know the whole story behind you and Izuku and the past you share, but I do know that he was quirkless, and with how depressed he looked at times even before your Raka's death, and how you treat so-called extras as poorly as you do. She narrows her eyes to him at that last part. I can only surmise that you're connected to it. Bakugo stands up, staring her dead in the eye. A 5-second blinking contest proceeds before he shouts, what I and Deku had is none of your fucking business. Like my past is of any real importance. He then storms away. Onyx's eyes narrow as the president of Class 1 stares at the problem child under her. Pieces start to come together in her puzzle of a mind before she says, I see. Are you afraid that I'll learn something that will jeopardize your chances of becoming a hero? He stops, turns around, and glares with an intensity beyond anger. Had she made that expression herself, she'd recognize it from back at USJ. Retracing his steps to return into her face, Bakugo demands, say that again. Is that the real reason why you didn't want Izuku to come to UA? She crosses her arms under her chest. Even if he didn't pass the exam to get into A or B, he could have easily entered into general studies or support. But you didn't want him in UA at all, because he could finger all the horrible things you did to him. He grits his teeth. Did he tell you? The only thing he told me was that he probably couldn't save 2 bullies. Momo checks her pocket when she hears a beep from her phone. Hey, anyway, I'm sorry it got like this. But Izuku is my friend, and he's been through enough mentally. I'll see you tomorrow, Bakugo. Taking in a deep breath, Momo adjusts herself to leave. The girl then says, you're right, it's none of my business, but it is his. And I don't want him to suffer any more than he already has. With her exit, Bakugo clenches his fists together so hard it sounds like leather. Nosy bitch. At the front gate, Momo approaches it just in time to see Jiro there. While doing so, she takes out her phone to check the message, her countenance beaming as if the past couple of minutes didn't happen. The earphone jack girl notes her reading the message on her phone. Is that Midoriya? Izuku's grounded for the moment. I guess it makes sense. Momo shakes her head with disappointment. The purple-haired girl sighs at that, she sounds disappointed. The two continue until Jiro reaches her bus stop. Are you coming too? No. I have another bus to take. Sometimes taking public transportation is more liberating, Momo explains before adjusting her backpack. See you tomorrow. No problem. Suddenly, her phone gives a chirp. Almost immediately, Jiro dives into her cellular and checks a new post made. Looks like my Spider-Man group updated. Momo comes back hearing those words and checks her classmate's phone behind her back just in time to see a photo tagged with Izuku's persona. Her face stretches long as her eyes widen upon seeing the picture of Mount Lady kissing Spider-Man. Meanwhile, just in time for his curfew, Izuku lands on the side of his apartment home before climbing in through the window. He slips in and drops his bag on the floor before taking his mask off. Sighing, he remembers the conversation he made with All Might, including the part at the end. How am I going to tell her? She didn't even want me to be a hero. Izuku, is that you? Asks Inko from beyond the door. When did you get in? His heart thumps fast as he makes his next course of movement. He turns to the door and says, Mom, I have something important to ask of you. I'm not letting you off this curfew before you ask. On the other side in the living room, Inko gets up heading to his door. Said door opens up, revealing to his overprotective mother the secret in his closet. Him in his spider suit. It has something to do with that. Inko stares at her son, looking at his face and then his costume. Only one thing comes to mind. What the F? Chapter 13. Distraught. Disappointment. Disdain. These are the emotions flowing through Momo Yaoirozu's mind as she walks down the streets. Due to some news that she came across, she's mildly displeased, which is a huge understatement. These words are just the collection of surface layer describing her feelings about that. So out of it is the girl that she doesn't notice the stuff she trips over as she makes her pace for the nearest bus stop. Even when it picks her up, takes her along, and drops her off, she still keeps her attention on it. The first boy who became her friend was kissing an older woman. But it's through the mask, so that should be okay. He had no other friends before they met, he does not know how to act around girls, so that must have been his first kiss. Not that it was. She didn't touch his lips through that mask, so it doesn't count. Thank God she put in the filter. Wait, why am I thinking so hard about this? Her head finally stops fuming as she realizes her overreaction. He's my friend. Izuku should be able to kiss whoever he wants. It shouldn't bother me. Thinking further, she pats her head with both hands. It's none of my business. But business. The intelligent girl comes out of her thoughts finally when she hears a familiar voice addressing her. Looking up, she notes her mother standing at the top of the steps. She has walked from the bus stop to her front gate, unlocked the gate and entered her mausoleum of a home, all while thinking about Izuku kissing Mount Lady. How that happened is something she'll have to wonder later. Mother, right now she needs to come up with a good enough lie. I was just thinking of something in school today. I see the eldest Yaoirozu comes down the steps reaching her, wearing a stylish azure suit with a business skirt. Unlike most suits, she wears a matching cyan shirt and buttons everything tightly, and unlike Momo who likes to tie her hair into ponytails whenever she's out, her midnight locks are wrapped in a bun. Her onyx eyes peer from underneath the bangs over her forehead as she steps down, her heels clicking on the carpet of the staircase. She would almost look exactly like Momo if not for her nose and the signs of age on her face. It's good that you're here at this time, the mother approaches her daughter, who stops as soon as her sentence ends. We've received a visit from Wing Tech. Wing Tech. With a gesture of her head, she points over at the living room not far from their position, where a man sits awaiting them. He's an aged man with black hair showing signs of gray, dressed in a standard business suit, save for the green handkerchief and tie he wears. He wants to talk to you. Momo nervously steps over, taking a seat in front of the man as her mother stands behind. The man speaks, "Greetings, young lady." Seeing him, she thinks further seeing him. She then gasps. "Wait, I know you. You're that criminal Koku Hatsume." The man flinches at that, letting her know she's right. He doesn't look too keen on that accusation. "I don't do that anymore." He then fixes his posture before coughing to clear his throat. "Yes, I used to be the Vulture, a villain who stole items and turned them into weapons years ago. But I've paid my debt to society and now I run Wing Tech. It's a support company that manufactures the items and gears UA buys. I see, and you need me because Koku hands her a cobalt notebook which she takes. This here is all the notes we've gathered on ocelite and its atomic structure. We would like for you to study this and produce some more of this metal. The girl looks at the notebook and then back at Koku. You want me to make more of it? Don't be surprised, daughter. Aside from heroism, the Aoirozu family creates items for support companies. How else did we build up this fortune? She tells her. The girl looks over at her guest. Now, just send the knight studying the metal and when you're ready, create it. I don't know, Momo sighs with uncertainty. Can't you do it? It's best if you do. It will give you a chance to better understand complicated metals like these. The mother then leans in, her eyes showing blatant disapproval. And, you can stop thinking about that quirkless boy Izuku Midoriya. These words prompt Momo to turn around quickly, eyes widened at her statement. What? I took some time looking into that guest who came to visit you after USJ, she then speaks aloud, glaring down upon her. Momo, you were raised to ignore all useless things. You who have the perfect blend of me and your father's quirk will far outshine your siblings and surpass even All Might, so you wasting your time falling in love with a boy who worthlessly tried and failed to become a hero will never amount to anything. The distraught rich girl looks down at her hands, clenching them tightly as she reaches out to take the notebook. With it in hand, she gets up and walks away, heading for her room. While in ascent, she hears Hatsune and her mother talking, saying things along the lines of she's still young and I probably shouldn't have heard all that. Upstairs in her bedroom, which looks as big as a dining hall in the average household, the confused peach girl lies back on her queen-sized bed staring at the notebook. She sighs, tossing it aside for the moment. Unable to focus on the task at hand, she looks at her phone, checking that photo again. This prompts more thoughts to flow through her head. If Izuku is going to become this frivolous, then maybe reacting like this will be pointless after all. How does she feel about him anyway? Izuku, am I jealous? Do I have feelings for you? I've only known you for half a year, and you're still a bit of a mystery. Her head shakes from side to side before she delivers a loud groan, grabbing the notebook. She needs to put that aside until this weekend. And this vibrating metal is the perfect distraction. If only it could keep her from obsession. Elsewhere, Inko Midoriya is bedazzled. For the past few days, she's been interested in the news regarding the likes of Spider-Man. Seeing him gracefully swing through the skies like God's acrobat dancing on clouds is a rare sight for her to see. Even though she adamantly disagrees with his actions, there is a mystery about him that affects her deeply. These reasons haunt her even to this day. Ever since he spoke to her back when she dropped her wallet, she's often thought back to him whenever her time wasn't spent on her son, work, or this new diet she's been trying, and whenever the news regards her she could not help but focus. Even thinking about her precious child makes her think about Spider-Man. His voice sounded just like Izuku but filtered. Despite knowing he can't, she can't help but think that. Inko Midoriya is having the biggest heart attack at the moment. Standing before her in the hallway is Izuku, dressed from neck to toe in Spider-Man's uniform. Izuku is Spider-Man. Her son, the boy she dubbed Quirkless and blamed on herself, is the vigilante that she met not so long ago. Her flesh and blood is the same person she judged so negatively even sooner ago. So much is going through her mind right now, to a point where all she can say is the first thing she can process. Izuku, you have a quirk. Yes, Mom, I have a quirk now. She rushes to him, grabbing his shoulders, screaming, how? Well, you know, he mumbles a bit, but unlike where he murmurs ideas to be jotted down, he seems to be looking for answers. This continues for about 3 seconds before he stops. No, I don't want to lie to you any more than I already have. I got bit by a spider and its powers passed on to me. What? That's the truth behind his sudden power gain. She was expecting him to say something along the lines of a sudden development that was medically possible. But this is nothing more than science fiction. How did a spider give you a quirk? Izuku looks dumbfounded, confused yet dumbfounded. She recognizes that he is telling the truth, but it seems he can't even explain himself. That means even he doesn't fully understand how he got those powers. That worries her even more. I wish I could answer that, I do. But this is all I know, he says to her, using his hands in his description. I think it got a quirk of its own and used it to give me one. The principle of UA is an animal, so it's not too far-fetched a theory. She can't accept that now. Not yet. So, bridging her eyebrows together, she finally comes to what she needs to say. Izuku, you're Spider-Man. That's why you've been staying out late, getting to class late, making me worry this whole time. Yes. I didn't want you to find out this way. Her hands grip tightly. How did you want me to find out? When I walk in on you with your mask off? Until I find you sprawled on your bed bleeding from the wounds you got fighting some monster villain? Or maybe when you're arrested and your face appears on television? Tears form and fall as the horrid thought crosses her mind. Why are you a vigilante in the first place? You said you wanted to be a hero. Izuku turns to the side, his mother spotting the shame in his eyes. Look at your mother, she demands, and thankfully he complies. I did want to, and I still do. Remember the day of the entrance exams? Yes, she then thinks back, remembering the headline events that took place. There was a villain attack that caused a car accident where one fell over a bridge. They were saved by a person with webs coming out of his wrists, the first sighting of Spider-Man. It all makes sense now. That's why you didn't make it. I could have left and made it in time, but I stayed behind to be a hero because they needed my help. If I didn't, that little girl could have died. Her lips furrow and her heart turns conflicted. But Izuku, you're a vigilante. You're a criminal the police are well aware of. Should you keep this up, you'll be hunted, and you'll ruin your future. That's not true anymore. Now he becomes excited. I met All Might, and he allowed me to become a hero. I don't have to stay a vigilante. The sparkle in his eyes disperse as he continues with, but I need you to help me. I need your approval so I can take this dual admission and become a hero. Inko delivers a slight gasp. She looks down at her son's costume and then him. With a fastened mouth, the plump mother stares into his eyes of hope before releasing him. She steps back looking at him before saying, Izuku, you became a criminal to play hero like a hobby and kept this secret from me this entire time. I don't know if I can trust you to be careful. The conclusion he came to realize the moment he asked that. Izuku sighs at his optimism. But we'll talk about this in the morning. She steps away quickly, liquid dropping down as she makes her way to her bedroom. Slamming the door behind her, she sighs leaning against the door. This is just too much for her to put up with. Ignoring all thoughts in her head and slushy noises coming from under her bedroom door, she sleeps. Elsewhere, Mandalay sits in her bedroom laying back on her queen size before checking her phone. Before she could answer a notification, there's a knock on her door. Coda. Can you not do that anymore? Asks a young voice from the other side. Come in, she says, and in steps a little boy aged 5. Standing at the same height as Mineta, sadly for him, he stares at the older woman wielding her blanket over her leathery frame. Coda. How was school? It's kindergarten, he mutters, glancing up at her face. Why are you dressed in that? Eh? You can see it. She looks down her body and spots her foot poking out from the covers. Damn it. I guess I could lie to him. You're broadcasting your thoughts again. Dang it. She shuffles herself before lying back down. Look, it's just my job. Using your quirk to be a hero again. She sighs, narrowing her eyes, noting the unpleasant tone in his throat. Coda, her phone rings at that moment. Holding a finger to the boy, she answers the call. Hello. You don't have to do me any favors. The boy steps outside, leaving her to whatever conversation she'll be having. On the other side of the door, the 5-year-old makes his way to his bedroom, eyes twitching with resistance. The following morning, Izuku steps out of his room dressed for school. Glancing around, he notices his mother is up and getting ready to leave. He needs to talk to her now, maybe she's calmed down a bit. Mom, wait. Inko turns around to her running son, who to her shock is right in front of her now. At this point, she should be used to it. Izuku. The boy takes in a breath and speaks with all his confidence. Mom, I want to become a hero. I don't want to stop trying either, so please. She sighs. Izuku, I've spent some time thinking about it. I don't think I can just so easily change my mind. And besides, you had such high hopes on helping others using science. I'm not giving that up either. That's how I made the web shooters and my synthetic webbing, all thanks to Dad. Wait, your webs aren't organic. No, they're not. Why does everyone keep thinking that? And it's biogenic. Izuku. She lowers her head, which he takes as a good sign that he's weakening her defenses. He just needs a breach. If you believe in yourself and want to prove to me that you can, then let me speak to him. Speak to him? I want to speak with All Might. If he can convince me, then I'll consider it. Oh really? He stutters, eyes widen with shrunken pupils as his cheeks stretch up into a crescent. Yes. She then opens the door heading out. He'll provide all the answers I need. With that, Inko closes the door behind. Before poking her head back in to say, oh, I made you a fruit salad for breakfast. You're on the go now lately after all. Thanks mom. Now that she's gone, he goes to the fridge quickly to grab his breakfast. Thinking about his situation further, a sparkle of hope enters Izuku's heart as he realizes she's speaking to All Might. Surely if anyone can convince her he can be a great hero, it would be his idol and the main inspiration he wished to be a hero. I guess I can call that a win. Now he just needs to figure out how to contact him. He didn't exactly leave his number. Exiting his house wondering how he'll be able to contact All Might, Izuku dashes at full speed for school. Maybe a little downtime can give him an idea, but then again this is school. Finally, on time, he passes through the gate heading into its compound. Physical education comes around today at 1 p.m, with a student sitting in the gymnasium watching on a plasma screen TV All Might talking to them all. Delivering this helpful challenge, I am here. he shouts, laughing in the locker room he's in on screen as the words All Might's Fitness Challenge appear in font below. Whether you're in the classroom or not, you must always give 110%. Thinking about it, Izuku notices that he's done a lot of these PSAs. So I leave you in the hands of your teacher. He then delivers a thumbs up before the screen turns off. Thank you, All Might, says the green-skinned rage monster as he calmly turns to the class. Now I'm sure none of you are getting scouted by heroes, but it's required to show these regardless. So he blows the whistle, and they're off doing their workouts. Performing sit-ups, the students all moderately pair up to help one another holding their legs down. Izuku is paired with a guy with whiskers similar to a bunny and continues to perform perfectly. Remember to hold your hands behind your head when you're doing it or else the repetition doesn't count, says the gym teacher as he passes by students. One glance at Izuku and he says, looking good, Midoriya, before moving on. The teen with the rabbit whiskers says, yeah, you're surprisingly fit for a nerd, Midoriya. How come you couldn't pass like Bakugo? I never made it in time, he says to him as he ascends to his knees. Oh. I guess that makes sense. Wish you weren't the only one. He then looks aside with a scowl. Gigan failed the exam and hasn't been the same ever since. Now he hangs out with a bad crowd. Izuku stops when he hears that. Crowd. Let's just say he smokes more than he used to, he replies, before looking back in the corners of his mind. Things just haven't been the same since we became freshmen. What happened to him? I haven't seen the guy since 2 weeks ago, Izuku asks. Got sent to Tama Juvie, he tells him, surprising the arachnid hero. Tama. At this point now Izuku is getting up and leaning on his knees. Wait, you mean they sent him to the juvenile detention center for out-of-line kids? I kinda feel sorry for him. As his classmate goes down for his sit-ups, Izuku looks around holding his legs down effortlessly as he thinks about what else has been going on with his surroundings. Has he been so focused on doing whatever a spider can that he forgot to be Izuku? He should get back to connecting with his friends sometimes. Then again, in all honesty, the only people he can call his friends all go to different schools. Everyone here ignored him for the greater part of his childhood, except for Hitomi and the bullies. It's as if he was never meant to be friends with them. Later. Speaking of friends, Izuku says to himself as he sits in his club room, finishing a new batch of web fluid. He's been doing it faster now to make sure his companions never catch him doing this. But now he has another problem to look into, his current best friend Momo. Ever since yesterday, she hasn't been answering his texts. He knows she's okay because she checks her phone which gives that response where his message was read. She hasn't made any reply, and that's what's worrying him. Picking aside his thoughts of worry, he hides away his stuff and cleans his area just before his club can drop on in. Unfortunately, that isn't what he got. Instead, he notes Shimura stalking inside, giving him the look that he always sees him wearing. The sophomore walks forth, touching the fragile stuff around him. Shimura. Hey. I didn't think you'd be here. Oh, who am I kidding? His sentence is followed with a laugh as he waves off the words he spoke like smoke in the air. That offhanded movement knocks aside a beaker filled with white grains inside. Izuku reaches out for it, quickly grabbing the beaker before it could smash. Don't do that. Sodium phosphide is dangerous, especially combined with water. I wish I knew enough to care, he says back. Anyway, I've been looking for you. Got a new game playing over there. I'm doing this now, senpai. Just come back later, he says, hoping he would take the hint. Then again, does he see Shimura as a friend? He kinda just forces himself into his daily endeavors, like a dog when it sees its master with teriyaki. Izuku checks the door and sees his class coming in, led by class rep Hitomi. Midoriya again. And you. He flinches at that, noticing the dark look in her eyes when she gazes upon the sophomore with cyan crayon hair. Haven't I told you to stay away from me? Shimura spits, what are you, a cop? The guy makes a rude exit, leaving behind a middle finger. Whatever. I hate that guy so much, Hitomi speaks, turning an eye to Izuku before grabbing his shoulders hastily. What happened? What did he do? The freckled boy pushes her off with a restraint of ease, before asking, what's wrong with Shimura? What's wrong with him? Hitomi looks ready for a rant. She says loudly but with confidence, Tenko Shimura is nothing more than a problem child, the kind of guy who drags you down to the bottom with him. What was he doing here? We know each other. A disapproving head shake is her response. Midoriya, stay away from him. You're already at risk from your constant absences, don't make your life as a student worse by associating with that guy. This doesn't convince him to do so. Instead, the boy now wants to know more about how exactly does she know him. Did he do something to her? Or was she just overreacting as she's wont when it comes to ethics? Regardless of what he's done, he isn't going to abandon someone who wants to spend time with him. He could use all the friends he's got, for anyone's a step up from Kaken. If he dealt with him for too long he'd have to break his nose. Wait. Once that thought processes in his mind, he flinches in shock. Why did I think that? Once the club ends, the green and black vigilante walks out the gates of his high school and spots a surprising sight in front of him. All Might. Where? Shouts the deflated symbol of peace. His classmates around him look in their general direction. In a frequency only they could hear, Toshinori Yagi says, "Just say your eyes were playing tricks on you." "Oh, right. Sorry, I guess my eyes were playing tricks on me," Izuku says suddenly, causing his associates to agree and go their separate ways. He completely forgot about his secret identity the moment he popped up in front of his school's doorstep. So almost immediately, the Emerald Child apologizes as they walk down the streets. Though afterward he starts to guess what could be the cause of this visit and realizes that All Might probably wants to confirm how his mother has taken the news. That is where he tells him the truth. Following this explanation, Toshinori says, "So your mother wants to talk to me personally, I guess I can spare some time." Izuku then remembers his time limit. "What about your limit? And, is it the same as before?" Well, the blonde hero thinks back to his battle with a demonic black monster that held him up and almost busted his ribs, including where he was wounded before. If he had spent that day stopping crime, then he'd be at a huge disadvantage. After the event at USJ, it's been reduced to 2 hours. So even my teaching schedule has been adjusted accordingly. That's why I have so much free time. The two come to a crossroads. Then. Tomorrow at 9. The adult looks at the left path crossing the street. "The spider that bit you is there too, right?" "It is. But, why do you want to know?" "I have a friend of mine who can study it. I'll be leaving shortly after the sports festival to visit him, so I figured 2 birds. So then you'll be able to figure out how I ended up turning into that." "Exactly." The light turns green. "I'll be there, Midoriya." "Okay. Thanks, Yagi." Toshinori Yagi. Hearing those words as he crosses over, the Emerald Spider smiles with a beating heart as tears start forming in his eyes. The symbol of peace just told him his real name. Yagi Izuku smiles while waving to him. Hopefully, he can charm his mother as well as him. Wait, that sounded wrong. Chapter 14. Last time. Izuku Midoriya was a quirkless child until one day on a school trip he is bitten by a spider claimed to have been genetically altered, giving him powers and abilities on par with a pro hero. He now goes around Japan fighting crime as the vigilante Spiderman. After meeting All Might, he is given a chance to become a proper hero by allowing him into a dual admission program. But first, he has to convince his mom at the same time as his date with Momo. Where am I? It's just some white depressing void. I'm hanging upside down from something using my webs. My costume is gone though. It must be a dream. I release my control and land inside a store. Oh no, it's that store. And there I am, letting him go. Hey, what the hell are you doing? You could have taken that guy apart and now he's getting away. Please don't remind me. But he didn't take anything. Go after him. Please, do something other me. But I don't. All I can do is stand there and watch as Ikegan runs away. For how long? Who knows? He just keeps running and running. Everything goes dark, blacker than the night it happened. He returns, and there stands Ichako. No. Please don't. Leave her alone. I don't care if this is a dream, I'm gonna save her this time. Get away from my friend. Bang. No, not again. He fired, and I couldn't do anything. Again. He's gone now, but she remains. I reach down to touch her hand, to help her. I feel nothing from her. No warmth, no pulse, not even her skin. Not until she grabs my arm and lifts her cadaver of a head up, those dead eyes of her locking onto my own as she speaks through a mouth filled with the crimson fuel of life. Deku, it's okay. It's not your fault. Those words echo through the confines of my mind as she repeats it over and over. It's not your fault. Uraraka, I not your fault. Wait. Your fault. It keeps repeating this now. Your fault. Your fault. Your fault. Your fault. Your fault. Her body melts down into a single point, shrinking down until she's a tiny orb in my fingers. It looks like a spider. But wait, it's not just any spider, it's the same one that bit me and turned my life into this endless carnival of mayhem. Can this dream get any more traumatizing? Well, with the noise behind me, I can say with the solace that it will. I turn around and see what I can only describe as ink moving, but more like it's rising over the top of me. Are those eyes? What the heck is this? Beep. 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 Izuku suddenly shakes in his sleep, eyelids bursting open with a sudden shout. He sits up quickly, breathing heavily as he tries to make sense of that dream. Turning his head to the right, he looks at his bedroom dresser where his alarm sits. As his eyes register to the light, he gets a good look at the time, where he discovers the current time is 7:32. He gives out a sigh of defeat, glad that he's out of that nightmare of a nap. As he does, his senses begin to inform him of his situation. His bed sheets are drenched, soaked in their inner fabric by what he hopes is his sweat and only his sweat. Not that he remembers any other dream last night. Then again, thinking about it. Why does he remember that dream more? He doesn't recall dreams being so vivid or tormenting. Your fault. He gets up from his red and blue all-night apparel bed before hitting the shower, taking the time to freshen up for the day and get rid of yesterday's dirt. He needs to pretty quick. His meeting, he doesn't have the guts to consider it a date with Momo, is pretty important and he has to look nice for her. She seems on edge for some reason. After taking the time to clean up, Izuku enters the living room. He carries a backpack well dressed in jean shorts that have the white flush on the right leg's legging and a red shirt that reads "I am here" in katakana. He also sports those familiar scarlet shoes with olive laces that he loves to wear. In the living room, he glances at his mother sitting in the living room with a tempered expression on her face. The woman turns an eye to her nervous child, her hand guiding him forth. Her motherly voice speaks out to him. "Izuku, this will be a long interview. Do you have any plans for the day?" He takes a breath, relaxing with the knowledge that she only intends to have a small chat with him. "Since you mentioned it, I'm going to go to meet Momo. Is that okay?" "Of course it is." Hearing her name brings a smile upon the 40-year-old's face, as he expects. His mom likes Momo, and it's not because she's rich. As far as he knows anyway. He walks over to her and wraps his arms around her for a hug, one that lasts for a long while. "Izuku, be careful out there." With these last words of care ringing in his ears, Izuku makes his exit, slipping through the front door. Leaving behind his home, the sensational teenager smiles as he makes his way through the city, as if that hug has released something heavy from his body. As he does, he checks his backpack, wondering why he brought it. Well, it's better safe than sorry. Lately, there are more heroes around. He even spots a hero with a group of others out on patrol as he crosses the street. His smile widens upon seeing him up close, the hero clad like a proud samurai in cobalt blue, gray gauntlets that reflect his determination, and red-orange flames that billow gracefully from his boots, shoulders, arms, and facial hair. This is the No. 2 hero of Japan, the Flame Hero Endeavor. Wow, he's even cooler in person. Izuku says in his mind with the inflection of a squeal as he gleefully examines the hero closest to rivaling All Might. Despite running into Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, and Death Arms, or rather because of seeing Endeavor leaves a deeper imprint on him. The fire hero stops before a crosswalk. He turns to his ward saying, "Keep a sharp eye out. I don't want any cases unresolved by the time tomorrow arrives," before gesturing to two of them in two different directions. "Also, if you see Spiderman, let me know immediately. I'll bring him in." Once he hears that, he stops dead in his tracks, eye twitching as he fearfully turns around to make his exit. He mutters, "I guess he didn't get the memo," before walking slightly faster than usual. Refocusing on his task, plan for the day, he heads for Musatafu Mall, a glass wall epicenter of collection for shoppers, mall rats, and people who just want to hang out. Passing by people and entering underneath the monolithic doors that put you to shame. Izuku passes into the food court and checks around. He notices a lot of people eating and talking with one another. Some of them he recognizes, including his classmate Hitomi Yatsu, before he catches the object of his desire sitting at a table. She wears a cloth over her head with her hair tied up into a ponytail and pointy sunglasses to mask her appearance. Otherwise, she wears a white blouse feathered over her cleavage, a violet skirt that reaches the middle of her thighs, and black heel boots that mimic the Zetai Ryoiki style. "Momo," he calls out, going up to meet her as she sits awaiting him. "Thank goodness I'm on time for once." "You're 1.9 seconds late," she says, turning her head around with a scowl. "Would you like to order?" "Of course," he says to her as he takes a seat. "I guess I could get some ramen." "Izuku," her words interrupt his process, "do you remember anything interesting happening to you lately?" "Interesting? It's a weird thing to ask," he thinks. He tells her a numerous amount of content that befalls him as Izuku and Spider-Man. If anything is interesting, she would have known by now. Although, there have been new updates that he hasn't been able to talk about since she's been avoiding him. "There is something important I wanted to tell you. I met All Might." He watches her turn her head around to give him a strange look, and this surprises him. He expected her to be amazed about him meeting his idol, or worried that he would take him in. Hell, he was even expecting her to be at least shocked. But her expression reads of one in the know, like she had a feeling this would happen. "And, what did he say?" "He wanted to offer me an opportunity to be a hero." From those words he gains the sight of seeing her reaction as he was expecting, giving an expression of bewilderment and relief. "He did?" She then sighs relief to the side, whatever was affecting her bad mood gone with the knowledge he just presented. "What exactly did he say?" "I can take this dual admission thing and become a hero by the time I graduate." "Dual admission?" She pauses to think about it. It sounds like what they do in college, allow a student to earn credits from one school while attending another. He did not think about that, she is smart to give it that kind of description. He starts to muse. Going off on that, if I take this course then I can become a hero by earning credits from UA High or another school and still attend a normal high school. But then that entails the question of what exactly the trials I will take will be. Is someone going to be watching me all the time? As he murmurs, the general populace surrounding them become unfortunate victims afflicted with having to hear his nonsensical words. Within seconds they start to depart, walking as far away from our emerald protagonist as possible. Izuku, you might want to stop, she tells him, the only one with a 2-yard radius still next to him. He stops and stares at her as she asks another question, those apple cheeks of hers, making him think there's more to this. So, is there anything else that happened that you want to talk about? He takes the moment to think further. And as his mind thinks back to what else happened that day, his head performs the tomato impression. Oh. Well, there was this thing with Mount Lady. Did you enjoy it? She asks quickly and forcefully. It's weird. How she knows that is a question he asks himself. Well, I wouldn't say that I did. It was kind of scary. He doesn't. She came on to him so quickly and forcefully. As beautiful as she is, that incident was scarier to him at the time than it was hot. Phew. The green-haired spider throws his head back in shock when he hears the tone in her voice. She's happy now. Thank you for being honest. Momo rises from her chair. Let's go get some food. I have many topics for today. Oh okay. He replies, following after her to the food court. Back home. It's 9 o'clock now. With Inko, she exits the bathroom just as the bell rings. Rushing forth to the front door she reaches the intercom for those outside the apartment complex. Hello. Please do me the courtesy and open your door, because I am here. Flabbergasted, the woman releases the button flailing her arms about like an inflatable tube man. Biwa. Sorry. She opens the door quickly, and there he stands on the other side. Dressed in a yellow suit as opposed to his hero costume, the number 1 hero steps inside the home, giving a pleasant look at his surroundings. He notes the tea placed out, the formal attire Inko is wearing, the overall cleanliness of the living room, the atmosphere is ready for him. Taking in a sigh with the relaxing knowledge that he won't have to do hero work today, he takes off his shoes. Thanks for having me, Inazuma. No, I mean paired. No, damn it. Inko flails a butt with her words failing to remain calm. How can't she? All Might stands right before her. I'm Inko. All Might smiles a bit at a response. Well, at least I know where he gets it from. Hello Inko. Would you like to have a seat? She screams, pointing to the chair in the dining room. He graciously accepts, taking a seat facing the front door hallway, while Inko nervously sits in front of him. The slightly overweight mother deeply inhales and exhales to release her stress, before turning an eye to him. Now calmer, she says, thanks for coming to see me. It's the least I could do, I can't exactly make your son into a hero without permission. All Might lowers his chin onto a fist. Well, Izuku has always liked heroes. Even when he found out about being quirkless, he never gave up. She chuckles before wiping away some tears coming out of her left eye. I always blamed myself for being unable to pursue his dream, and Hisashi only made things worse. Hisashi. She looks down at her finger, and the ring's still on her left hand's ring finger. Izuku's father, my ex. He left us as soon as she stops at that. We've not seen him in over 10 years, just letters he gives Izuku and annual checks. At least I still know he's alive. He just left you? Inko shakes in her seat, remembering everything he said in the folds of her memories. More tears form in her eyes, a liquid that is quickly absorbed by All Might placing a tissue to her eyes, saying with comfort, if you don't want to talk about it, I won't bring it up anymore. But, thanks for telling me a bit about the young boy. Why do you want him to do this? Inko asks, ready to get to the main point of this meeting. I often felt guilty for him being denied his dream, but whenever I think about him being a hero it scares me. She clenches her hands tightly. I know about USJ and the Villain Alliance. This is the first time criminals have assaulted a hero school, and it's because of you. Am I right? All Might sighs, leaving her to believe he understands just how deeply those words mean. She is right. If they're going to kill you, they'll do whatever it takes to. She sighs through this beat. I've already lost someone who meant so much to me. I don't want to lose him too. He reaches out touching her hand with his. Mrs. Midoriya, there's no need to worry. Is there? She shouts this suddenly, leaving her hand under his as she cries. Is there no need to worry? I've spent the last 11 years not preparing for that day to come, and unlike the other parents who have come to terms with that, I just found out he has powers. How can I trust that he'll be okay so easily? Because I'll be there. He replies. Not bothering to smile this time or keep that extreme expression of his, All Might gets up from his seat. Because I've seen his actions. I've spoken to the people he's helped. He takes out his phone and presses buttons to view videos, each one detailing various people out on the streets. His crouching is kind of creepy. This comes from a local housewife. I'd admit, he did great for a vigilante. Why isn't he a hero? This is spoken by a woman with purple hair and long earlobes. Fuck that nerd. This comes from Kakin. The spider? Kind of scary, isn't it? Wouldn't he be better off as a villain? A teen smiles as he stares ahead, his messy blue hair covering everything but his disturbing grin betraying his words. I really hope he's young because he has those tights, and that tight little A woman is cut short from speaking. She has black hair that reaches her waist with light blue eyes, wearing a fashionable yet sexy dress. The girl stands tall looking forward with a smile while waving. I'm glad you're doing this. Can he see me? Thank you, Spider-Man. A familiar family appears this time. The father speaks, thank you so much for saving my daughter. The next comes from a guy completely dressed in red. He waves, saying, oh, I never met this spider. I just wanted a cameo in this fanfic. The last one shows Momo in a chair within the halls of UA. This is about Spider-Man. I just want you to tell me what you think about him. I care more about the person behind Spider-Man, she says, eyes delivering much confidence as she stares unwaveringly at All Might as he records this. Spider-Man is just a boy wearing a mask to look after others like any other hero. If you want to know about him then ask about the person behind the disguise, because he is, and always has been, a decent caring person. As the video ends, Inko places a hand over her heart. She gives a bright warm smile of pure honesty and hope. One Yagi sees that a little twinge in his heart. From those graceful lips, she speaks, Momo, you're so supportive of Izuku. She looks down at herself, at her arms, and sighs, that lovely goddess reverting to a frowning muse. Still, Izuku, she inhales deeply before turning to Yagi. Izuku never manifested a quirk growing up, but then all of a sudden this spider bite opens this door for him, and at both parts of his life before and after that bite, he never stopped idolizing and copying you. If he can give this up, you'll be safer. He'll stop putting himself in danger. He will. He won't. She raises her head looking upon the muscular hero, his smile no longer present. The hero presents before Inko, to her horror, a piece of paper that has Izuku's persona Spider-Man on it. On it has a bounty posted $100,000 underneath his picture as the words wanted. Alive. Izuku has already made a name for himself as Spider-Man. And because of his actions, he already has enemies. Seeing it, the super worried woman asks, what's this? His actions the other night against the Shy Hasekai and the Society of Assassins has put their sights on him, and in the underworld, someone posted a bounty for his capture. Inko's normally marble-like eyes go plain with horror upon hearing that. The woman can feel her heart tearing apart. Also, earlier this week, a friend of mine came into contact with a member of these assassins. She fought and lost, but was left a warning. He and his group are going to track Spider-Man to get Izuku. All Might notes her hand gripping tighter. Even if he hangs up the mask, they'll still look for him. They will still seek his life. Her side of the table starts to dampen. All Might sighs seeing her anguish, before stating, that's why I'm here. I want to save him from that horrible fate, to make sure he becomes a proper, amazing hero. If I'm there, I will do everything I can. Her face rises, turning to face him. Before long, she asks, if I agree to this, will you do me one favor? Back at the mall, Momo and Izuku sit together enjoying the rest of their meal. So, I snuck up behind the guy and kicked him in the back of the head. I bet he didn't see that coming, Momo says, the two laughing. But let's get moving. Izuku nods before grabbing hold of both trays before dumping them in the trash recycle bins. Free, he joins his friend as they exit the monolithic mall as their conversation continues. So that's where the Ocelite came from, says Momo as she follows aside him. Oh yeah, Black Cat told me your family was to study it. She did. Solemn silence follows as she gets closer. You can stop thinking about that quirkless boy Izuku Midoriya. As the words of her mother return to the front of her mind, Momo sighs with a drop of depression. A drop that splashes into Izuku's attention puddle for the ripples, causes him to face her and ask, is something wrong? And then she shakes her head and looks away. Eyeing his female friend, he pats her shoulder and asks, Momo, is there something you want to talk about? His answer is a sigh, before. Izuku, I don't truly know everything about your past, and maybe it's wrong for me to do this, but I'd like to tell you if you're okay with sharing your turmoils. That should be a yes on my part. Here, whatever sadness that's been overwhelming her heart has started to slowly lift, like heavy rain turning into a drizzle. Izuku, my mother does not like you at all. That's a surprising thing to hear. He asks why, to which she replies, my whole life, I was raised to avoid and ignore pointless things. I never went to festivals or spent time with other kids. And anyone I did only liked me for my quirk or my money, and later in life my body. I don't believe that. you're such a smart person. It might be a bad move on his part. Izuku, in all honesty, you're the first friend I ever made. The first person to like me for myself and not because they wanted something. That's wow, it's something he never considered, but now that he thinks about it, that would explain certain times where she'd be upbeat and eager to hang around him. I never would have thought that of you. Then mother thinks you're a distraction. She takes his hand. No matter what I say to her, she won't change her mind of you, and I don't want to kick you out of my life. Thanks to you I ended up liking myself more. Well, I wouldn't want you out my life either. I like you too, Momo. Of course, seconds later does the tomato impression returns as the spider boy freaks out. Well, I mean yeah, you know what I mean. Right. He remains blissful in his freak out, unaware of his beautiful friend also turning red while also smiling. The boy then straightens himself when his hair stands on the ends of his body. Something's approaching him. Is it a threat? He turns around to look around for whoever it could be. His tense thoughts disappear when someone screams out to him from behind. Hey, Midoriya. Both Izuku and Momo quickly turn around with the speed of a cheetah, coming face to face with the person who screamed out his name. All up in his face is a strangely beautiful girl his age, skin as fair as his friend Momo, with canary yellow eyes that have pupils in the shape of crosshairs. He jumps away in shock, returning to the tomato impression, and gets a better look at her. She wears a sleeveless shirt with an emerald color scheme not unlike his own with black lines running down it, baggy pants the shade of wood varnish, and black boots that could squash an anthill. She also has these strange goggles atop her head that resemble those from the steampunk genre. Who are you? He asks this girl, who seems to be wildly unaware of the gap between them that seems to be shrinking with each second. She's not even embarrassed either, this girl continues to sport this shameless grin. The nerve popping out, Momo says, hey. The name's Mei Hatsume, and I've been meaning to get a good look at you, she says to him with a gleeful tone over top anything Momo was about to say. Oh. So I'm being ignored. Oh, Izuku stammers, taking in a deep breath as he tries to get over this extra forward girl. Back to normal, he asks, how do you know me? I saw your fight at Dagaba Beach with that explosion guy. Hearing that, something instinctively shatters in his mind. This girl he's never met before saw him fighting. She saw and heard them. So then. I know. He groans inwardly at her, not so secret assessment. He even has to raise his hands and lower them for her to get the picture. Oh, right. You're trying to keep it a secret. Let's walk and talk. She then takes his right arm and guides him away, only because he's letting her. Immediately, Momo follows as her expression freezes blue. Hey, let go of Izuku. As Hatsume pulls the boy, her hands travel along his arm before poking his abdomen, much to Momo's chagrin. Ooh. You're well built for a lanky looking fella. Are you wearing clothes that are a size larger? An eyebrow raises on his face at her statement. She's a lot more observant than she looks, no one else has noticed that he wears a size larger to throw off suspicions. Having enough, Momo grabs her friend and pulls free. With an air of maturity shrouding agitated jealousy, she says, you're making him uncomfortable. There's a beat of pause, followed by the blinking of eyes. And then Hatsume says, oh, and you are? You just ignored me the whole time. Momo speaks with obvious agitation. She would go off if she wasn't raised like this. What do you want from Izuku? In a whisper, to his gratefulness, she says, I go to UA High in the support course, and when I heard that those strings of his aren't organic, I knew they were an invention he made, along with something to shoot them out with. I want to remake it, but I need to see his. That's a surprise. She simply wants to check out his web shooters. As much as he'd like to talk about it, he's in a public area. Also, he's with Momo right now. I'm kind of busy with Momo here. She can come with. We'll go to my house. Hatsume smiles before she pulls the spider boy away. That anger tick grows further along Momo's face as she follows after. Elsewhere. This has been a rather lovely morning, says the suit-wearing hero All Might as he takes a sip of her tea. Yes, it has, she says, smiling nervously as she looks down at her cup as she refills. The heroic He-Man places the cup down on its plate before getting up from his seat. Where's your bathroom? Behind you, to the right. All Might gets himself up and moves towards the bathroom using her instructions. As he does, he passes by Izuku's room, which is much closer to the room and has the door open just enough to leave an eavesdropping peek. Curious, he enters the room to give himself a good look at the room of his soon-to-be protege. Inko on her end wipes her table while keeping an eye down the hall. Not noticing, she knocks over a teacup and instinctively bends down to grab it before placing it back on the table. Wait, why did I do that? How did I do that? To her, that was a strange movement. She could have just used her quirk to catch it, but instead, she caught it before it hit the floor. She's never been able to move that quick before either. While bent over, her eyes catch the sight of smoke. The Emerald Mother places her cup on the table and glances down the hall where she gets a full view of it. It's coming from the bathroom. Oh no. Not properly giving herself the time to think it over, as she's wont to overreact to things, Inko grabs the fire extinguisher from underneath the sink and rushes for Izuku's bedroom where the smoke is coming from. She rushes into the room brandishing it, aiming the nozzle out to fire rapidly across the room. As the smoke clears up, she sees the sputtering hand movements of someone inside the room. All Might. I'm sorry, but I saw smoke and thought there was a furry hhhh. To his horror, there All Might stands, as Toshinori Yagi the deflated human. Inko continues shouting, "Who are you? An imposter, you pretended to be All Might this whole time." Sweat dripping down his face, he says, "I am All Might." "No, you're not." "I am." "You're bleeding." As she says, blood can be seen dripping down his mouth. In his right hand, only half covered in the foam, is a picture. Spread across the image are younger and thinner Inko, her son at toddler age, and a mysterious third person. The picture is also bent by his fingers. Chapter 15. Toshinori and Inko sit side by side on the couch of her living room, staring at the television screen, a television screen that is nothing more than static and fuzz. The two of them look to one another at that, before the skeletal adult turns his head to face her. There is no point in keeping it quiet now. She knows. So the best thing to do is to explain himself and hope her answer doesn't change. "So, I guess you have some questions. Is that how you always looked like?" "Yes. And your muscular self? It's kind of like when you go to the beach and you suck in your gut." Inko takes a moment to sigh, taking in everything with another level of understanding. She then asks, "Why doesn't everyone else know about this? Why reveal yourself to someone else?" Yagi looks down at his feet, staring off into space. "Well, he already told Izuku. His mom most likely won't allow Izuku to do the apprenticeship unless he tells her the truth. A few years ago I was in a fight." He lifts his shirt, granting her a sight so tragic she holds her mouth in horror. "It cost me some of my respiratory organs, and now my ability to be a hero has been reduced. No one else besides the teachers of UA, close and personal friends, the man who put that hole in my chest, and your son, know the truth." Inko watches as he pulls his shirt down before recovering. I see she looks him over with understanding. "All Might, you've been through a lot, haven't you?" "Yes, I." "Seeing you like this, will Izuku follow the same bloodstained path? Be reduced and worn to a level he can never come back from?" He raises a hand to answer her, but she interrupts ever so quickly, eyes half submerged in tears. "I've seen enough hero stories in the news and movies to know how this could end. You will risk your life to save others and die in the process. The event will shock and harm my son in a way never before, in a way he'll never recover from, and I'll just be on the sidelines, unable to help him." Inko stretches her hand out to take his hand, her olive pearls looking deep into his cyan crystals. "Can you promise me that won't happen? That you'll live to properly coach him through and through?" Looking at her hand, and then back at her face, Yagi understands the depth of worry she has and the sincerity in her tone. The only thing he can do is reply as honestly as possible. "I will do everything I can to guide him, to make sure he avoids the bloody path you fear." Her eyes gaze down on the bounty poster of her child. Then the answer remains unchanged. "We give you our blessing." She then flinches. "Wait, I give you my blessing." As she turns her head to the side muttering why she used plurals, Yagi smiles, taking it in stride. Oddly enough, there's this calming resonance being around her that he's never experienced before. Well, maybe with one person. "Thank you." Turning red, Inko removes her hands as she asks, "All Might. Call me Yagi." "Yagi, why did you transform back?" she asks, recovering her nerves. "I was just surprised when I saw this picture in your son's room." Yagi pulls out from his pocket a crumpled up photo he held before. She takes it and opens it up, revealing the contents to her. Herself when she was younger and thinner, her son back when he was way more adorable than before, and a third person with short hair, rather rugged in his facial expression, and possessing light-colored eyes. Seeing it, Inko grips the picture tightly before shoving it in her pocket. "I can't believe he still had it. I thought I destroyed them all." Disturbed, Yagi asks, "That's Hisashi, I guess?" "Yes. That's Izuku's father." A sigh of irritation seeps through her throat before her eyelids ascend, as if a thought crossed her line of thought. "Do you know him?" "No. I mean, I shouldn't know him, but his face looks familiar. Just when and where did he see that face? He'll have to figure that out later." Elsewhere. The day for her starts with a phone call. She picks it up while lying in bed, checking the ID for whomever it could. It reads Detective Tsukauchi, so it must be important. "Hello? Black Cat, it's me." "I know," she says, with mild annoyance in her tone as she rises. "And don't call me Black Cat when I'm not on duty." "How would I know that if you don't use FaceTime?" There's a slight pause after that. "It's him." "Them who?" After that comes another pause, in which it hits just exactly who he's referring to. As soon as it does, every sense of fatigue that remained from her laziness disappears immediately, replaced with intense determination and resentment. Oh. Him. An eyewitness report seeing him attacking people in Hosu. This is guaranteed, right? Not a hunch or someone's likeness that derailed me from that job, right? No, this is the real deal. Confirmation of his quirk and everything. The hand on her phone tightens. Good. Send me the coordinates and we'll meet up there. The call then ends, allowing Shino Sasaki to flip off her bed to spread open the closet doors, where her black leather hangs awaiting her. She grabs the mask, placing it on her face. I've got you now. Elsewhere. Addie. May. What brings you back so soon? And with the young Yaoi Rozu and. There he stands, Izuku Midoriya the Spider-Man, before a much older man beside his daughter in front of the average modern Japanese house. This gruff gray-haired fellow gives him a dark look the moment he figures out she brought a guest home, for reasons Izuku believes is because he has Y chromosome cells. He gives him a dark look before asking Hatsum a question. His tone deep and mildly vicious as is wont of all men with daughters. Who is this lanky boy? Hatsum grabs hold of the boy and pushes him forth, shouting, he's a friend of mine, Midoriya, we're going to make a beautiful baby together. The girl's abrupt announcement makes the boy and his friend turn to her quickly, his eyes fading away turning bright white, while his hair stands on its ends and the other's eyes going just as wide with her hand to her mouth, appalled by Hatsum's bold statement. Momo can't help but shout, what? The emerald protagonist glances at her father as he gives him the look, before laughing. So you found another guinea pig to build things with? Of course. Izuku and Momo then exhale their fears and negative emotions into the purifying air, Hatsum's answer reassuring for their hearts. You'll have to forgive May, speaks Koku as he pats his daughter's head. She treats her inventions as her children. Hatsum pouts staring up at her old man, muttering, they are. I made them. So she's just a weirdo. It's not too hard to figure for Momo. Though as they enter into the inventor's abode, Koku then says, poor boy. Izuku turns his head quickly at that. What exactly does that mean? Down in the basement they go, entering a hodgepodge of metal scrap, ceramic wrap, and other crap. Everywhere he steps he has to avoid metal or some sort of electronic that looked important while she dances across the junkyard. Hatsum reaches a table of more valuable looking things, including a figurine he never expected to see. It shows the iconic All Might dressed in his cape costume, which has garnered Izuku's grand attention. Running up to it he shouts, is this an All Might collector's edition figure with a Silver Age costume? Oh, this. She picks it up, brushing off a piece of dust on it. It's a gift from my father. He got it from a friend of his in America. The nerd in him emerges as he gushes over the figure. Can I ask where he got it? And if he has more? Momo watches as the two converse. Her dank demeanor side by side with that pout and crossed arms read loud and clear, I'm here too. Before that, let me see those shooters. At that moment, Momo stretches herself erect, glaring up in his face with a daring smile. Knowing she doesn't want her in his face forever, because she's so forward and he's still him, Momo pulls Hatsum away from her friend. This calms down Izuku enough for him to draw out his web shooters from inside his backpack along with his costume, and reveals them to the girl. She takes the left one and examines it along with its capsule filled with webbing. Maha Hatsum scans over the invention with vast interest before inserting a web capsule. Aiming, she fires at a poster of an upcoming expo releasing a string of webs. She pulls on it just before it hardens. Ooh. The tensile strength is amazing, and it needs to be fired at a pressurized rate of 250 psi. 300. Izuku then watches as Hatsum continues to pull, straining herself so much she sweats. Need help? Please. Using his spider strength he rips the webbing off her fingers. This is really sticky too. It is. Momo touches what remains with her finger on Izuku's. It's still impressive. Hatsum tests her fingers before asking, how come no one ever finds them and picks it up or gets it stuck in their hair? The rich girl speaks just before the spider vigilante could. He made it so it lasts only an hour. I was gonna say that, he speaks back, to which she smiles with mild triumph. But, sometimes there's leftover dust inside that needs to be cleaned routinely and I keep. Hatsum turns her head up to him in surprise, getting up into his face once more and making the boy turn his eyes away. Wait a second, you didn't buy it. You made the web fluid too. Here, the boy is prompted to nod with mild pride. Of course. How? That excitement comes back to her. How did you come up with the formula for this stuff? Oh, he flabbergasts, thinking about it, it's hard to fully understand where it came from. Well, I've had this slight interest in biochemistry, but I never would have thought to make something like this before yet, when that spider bit me. Even though webs were the only thing it didn't give me, I somehow understood the exact chemicals to manufacture the fluid the moment I realized a spider-themed hero needed webs. It was like something guiding me. He comes out of his thought process to look at Momo, the girl cupping her chin as he explains himself. It does make some form of sense, Izuku is smart, but it takes a genius level intellect to create something out of scratch. If that spider bite did more than give him powers, then there's more to it than just a quirk giving quirk in an animal. In her own words, it comes across as ominous. I know. The spider boy picks up his capsule before placing it away in his back. So, you've seen it. Now. He begins to regret that, for he notices a spark of light in Hatsume's eyes when she takes the shooters and starts writing down notes on a book that somehow comes from behind her. I've been thinking of ways to improve it when I heard that and saw you use them in action. If you can use your webbing in more ways than just tying people up and swinging from buildings, then it'd be much more effective. Well, I did. Have you considered using it for a parachute? The thought of that hits him good when he considers it. It's something he wanted to try out when he has the fluid to spare. Or, adding material to it to do extra stuff. And with that, his head lifts in shock when an epiphany hits him. That is a great idea, one he wished he had thought of a while ago. Oh. This was better than I thought. Like, let my webs taser criminals. Exactly. She shouts, holding his web shooter up. Maybe add a warning system in case you run out. Oh, that's a great idea. Izuku's been contemplating doing that for weeks now. This girl, Mei Hatsume, is far clever than he originally thought. While Momo looks down with a half smile. She has been with Izuku this whole time and they've never come up with ideas like that. Why would she waste her time and energy being jealous when those two together is a benefit to him? Although, why is she putting his happiness over her feelings? If only I had the money to do it, Izuku mutters. I can make new material for my web fluid, you can make it from chemical material found in a science class and nylon, but the web shooters are made from pretty pricey parts. I'm not in a position to upgrade them anytime soon, and I don't want to force Momo to make things for me. Not to mention, he needs to change his suit according to All Might. Even worse than that, there's no one else he could ask for new gear. There's a lot on his list of issues. Touched, Momo smiles wider at his consideration. Oh, Izuku, she hums, before stepping forward. It's okay. It is. The rich girl approaches Hatsume and takes out her stacked wallet. I wasn't as supportive of being a vigilante as much as I wanted to, she confesses, looking down with mild shame. I had been hoping you would put away the suit and I felt so ashamed of it. You're much more deserving of being a hero than Bakugo. And now that you have a chance, no, even before her hand grips tighter onto the wallet. I should have given you my full support. So from here on, I will help you become a hero. A shining light like no other blinds him from the brilliance of Momo's kindness. Such an angel. Upstairs. Inside the living room of the Hatsume household, Koku sits on his couch reading off his touchscreen device. Just a month or so left until the Eye Expo. He stops upon hearing the sound of a knock on his front door. Getting up, he goes to check on it and witnesses a man standing just outside. He wears a black suit with a bow tie. Afternoon. Koku narrows his eyes at the appearance of one of his higher-ups. Kenshiro. I thought we were going to wait until after the sports festival to meet up. There's been a change in plans, says the worker. I've come to take it back for production. We've discovered a means of safely separating it. Oh? We found a weakness. He smiles at the news before making way for him to come in. I'll go get it. Thank you, Hatsume, he says as he enters the home. As he does, Koku makes a stop. Hatsume. He then turns around after repeating his name before looking down at his guest/employee. Since when do you call me Hatsume outside of the office? His hawk eyes scan the movements of the man, whose own widen a bit as that little tidbit of news comes out to surface. That confirms something for him. Something is up. Kenshiro. Back with the trio, Izuku, Hatsume, and Momo get to work jotting down notes. The pink-haired girl picks up the paper and looks over with giddy eyes. So let's see a new suit for when you become accepted into the hero course, upgrades to your web shooters, and collapsible shuriken in the shape of spiders. Is that all? Pretty much, Izuku replies looking down at them. Why shuriken? Asks Momo, looking at an etching of a spider shuriken. It adds some variety to my options. That agent I ran into inspired me, he confesses while looking it over. It's pretty plain though. Hatsume places the paper down. It's fine. I'll upgrade when I need to. Checking on Izuku's notes, Momo has something else to ask. But why red and blue? If I manage to become a hero, I can't call myself Spider-Man or even wear his colors. So he'd revel further, except his spider sense turns on. Upstairs. Upstairs? Asks Hatsume. Almost in synchronization with Hatsume's question, the ceiling bursts open from above. Plaster, brick, wood, and living room attire come down upon them. A loud shout explodes from the throats of the ladies as they're pushed with an aggressive force out of the way, landing just outside of the impact zone. Vision clouded by dust, the two teens cough out their lungs as they come to take in their situation. Izuku looks down seeing Hatsune and Momo below him, both with dust covering their faces. He coughs a bit before asking, "Are you two okay?" "A little more than okay actually," is the inventor's reply, confusing him. Izuku comes from the heroine in training, adding to the perplexity. It is only when he adjusts his hands where the boy comes to notice what exactly they meant by that. He pulls away quickly, hitting his head on the back of some fallen furniture, grasping the damaged area just as fast with his right hand. Despite the pain, he's still flushing red, remembering what he felt. "I'm so sorry." From behind them, a figure rises out of the dust. They look at, getting a broad look at their guest, who reveals himself as Koku. "Daddy," shouts Mei as she crawls over to her father. As the father and daughter pair come together, Izuku and Momo look up to see the perpetrator responsible just next to Koku. The spider's eyes widen in shock when he recognizes the person above him as someone he hasn't seen since chapter 2. Eigen, the horned villain, turns to Izuku when he heard his name being called. He tosses something in his shirt to the ground, which reveals to be someone instead, Kenshiro. Eigen is a 7-foot statue of a man with crater bulges coming from his shirtless body covered in charcoal. His traditional black hair and brown eyes match well with the crater lines on his upper chest, not so much the brown pants and dark boots he wears. He speaks in a deep voice, his narrow eyes focused on the group before them. "Well, what do we have here? 2 big-tittied bombshells, and my good old punching bag Deku." Izuku quickly moves out of the way, avoiding Geigen's quirk. A piece of his flesh comes out and solidifies into a rock before firing at the spider directly. Of course, a second one pummels him into the wall, our unfortunate protagonist falling face forward after the impact. "Izuku." Momo runs to his side. "Bullseye." With them occupied, Geigen turns over to Koku. "Now, where were we?" A grin follows. "Ah yes, you were giving me the ocelite." Down with Koku, he crawls over to his assistant while holding his busted arm. "Kenshiro," he calls out, "are you okay?" No response save a weary groan. The tar man moves quickly to the pink-haired inventor. Grabbing Mei by her throat, he says, "Tell me where the ocelite is, and she lives." Koku shouts, "Mei." Sighing, the adult situates Kenshiro aside to approach the teenage rock man, saying, "Wait, I'll take you. Just let her go." No tricks. With her still in his hand, Geigen watches as Koku walks up the steps leading him along. As they disappear to the upper level, Izuku picks himself up from the floor with a simple wipe of his chest. Checking his body with surprise, the raven-haired rich girl asks, "Are you okay?" "Yeah," he stands back up. "I wanted to know what he was doing here, so I let him hit me." "Wait, so you're not hurt?" "No. That trapezius guy could hit harder." Izuku gets up and crawls along the wall. Before he reaches the ceiling where the hole is, Momo speaks. "Who was that guy?" "Giru Ganretsu, a student who went to Aldera with me and Kaken." A sigh comes out as he recollects the now villain, narrowing his eyebrows with discord. "He was sent to Tama because he would misuse his quirk and bully others." "Tama?" "A juvenile detention center for kids who use their quirks to cause problems." Izuku climbs up the hole. With him gone, Momo glances at the table and picks up his web shooters. "Another bully, huh?" Upstairs, Koku guides his guest and daughter through the dilapidated junkyard that became of their living room into the kitchen. There, Koku goes to a section of the spacious room which holds a wall much different than the rest. It's gray in comparison to the white the rest of the kitchen is. "How did you know I had it here?" "That's not important, Birdman. Just hand over the rock and I'll be on my way," he tells him while grasping Mei with callous delicacy. This entices him to ask, "And who told you about me being a bird?" Unnervous, Geigen wipes away the sweat coming down to regain his composure. "None of your business. Now open it." Koku moves aside a picture to reveal a rectangular screen with buttons on it. The code is inputted 1963 just before a series of clicks and turns can be heard on the other end of the safe before it opens up. The man pulls it to the side, revealing the metal stone. This gets him pushed aside to painfully slide across a table, and Mei getting tossed over on top of him. Geigen then stretches his hand in to grab hold of the ocelite before testing it in his fingers. Before he could get a better look at it, a foot is planted into the side of the face of the charcoal man with enough force to drop him into the counter and denting it. Izuku lands just in front of him and glares at the villain, stretching his hand out to catch the ocelite that falls from above due to the sudden surprise strike. Geigen stares up at Izuku in shock. "How the hell did you get back up from that?" Izuku tosses the steel item over to Koku, the adult grabbing it with both hands. Flesh turns to stone and flies out at him, but the spider boy quickly moves and grabs Koku and the ocelite. He pulls him out of harm's way and carries the guy away from the action. Having seen everything that happened, Geigen gasps in utter disbelief. Is this a dream? Maybe I end up getting kicked in the face and my brain mushed into nothing." Because that seems like a better nightmare than this. Why is Deku fast? Momo comes just in time to see Koku moving away from the kitchen. How? Gigan grumbles, staring at the green-haired boy in confusion. How could you do something like that? I guess it's a growth spurt, he replies, stuttering slightly. Oh, you think you're cute. More of his flesh comes off in fire at Izuku, who jumps to the left to easily avoid the attack. Damn it. Their quirk rock break allows you to rip off the flesh and turn into stone for attacks. Like Kakin, I know how to dodge your quirk. Teeth grit against one another. What bullshit is that drug doing to my mind? How is this happening? Drug? I thought Jack's his brain. Is he referring to that? Do you mean trigger? Eh? How do you know that? More of his flesh turns into stones and fire at the spider boy, who jumps around dodging them. Mei ducks her head under to avoid flesh stones coming her way. Izuku jumps onto a wall and kicks off as he dodges, glaring over at Gigan. Thinking about it, why is he doing this? What are you doing stealing from these people? It's what I do now. He declares, punching his fist in to make more stones. I'm a villain mercenary. Criminals hire me to do jobs for them. Izuku lands just on top of a table in a crouch. Hearing him, the boy can't believe it. Why? I thought you wanted to be a hero. Yeah, I did. And you know what happened when I took the exam. He rushes at Izuku and swipes air, missing him. I failed it. I failed to get into UA. They even said my performance was so bad and criminal that they also barred me from applying to other schools. His face scrunches up. As bad as that is, it is extremely hilarious, not to mention cathartic. Are you laughing? Trying not to is Izuku's reply. You think this is funny? I'm stuck as a regular loser like you and Nobita. I don't know what happened to Tsubasa, but Bakugo got in instead of me. Do you know how pissed off I am about it? You have no reason to get mad about that. Of course I do. Rocks fire out from his chest at Izuku, who runs to the left avoiding them. He glances around in a scuff. On both sides the floating stones have him surrounded. I've worked hard day after day to get into UA and be a hero, and what happened? They reject me for some other losers who got fewer points than me. All because they didn't like how I did things. And the minute I bitched about it and did catharsis, Jayaku slammed me into Tamajuvie. That's when I met him, and he offered me a choice. Force myself to pine over a dream that'll never be, or put my talents to something more appropriate. If I can't be as free as a hero, then I'll be a villain. Parts of Gigan's body extract and harden, aiming once more at Izuku. A quirkless freak like you would never have gotten in no matter what. What do you know how I feel? They then fire. Tunnel vision forms before Izuku's sight. No hesitation or rational, he rushes into the hail of stone flesh, much to Momo and Hatsume's surprise. His speed plants his feet on each of the stones coming his way, and he pushes hard, rocketing through while avoiding each with ease. Watching, Momo could only describe what she's witnessing as simple. A spider is crossing to the clouds by hopping on and off each raindrop to come before it. Simply amazing. She doesn't need to help him here. So this is how he is as Spider-Man, she mutters, words ignored by the group in the kitchen, but not Koku or Kenshiro. Wait. His fist doesn't. The moment Izuku comes before Gigan, a punch is delivered with no haste square in the ribs. The special service digs deeper into the money spot, a sickening cracking sound checking out. Ooh, Hatsume says, having heard said crack. Not finished, the impact of the punch sends Gigan into the counter, breaking through and knocking over the knife rack. He groans, cupping his stomach as blood is spat out. How did you? Izuku stands tall before the fallen bully, unappreciative of his attitude and unharmed from the fight. He says, Gigan, you're without a doubt a villain. To your last cowardly whimper. UA didn't kick you out because of prejudice, it's because you're an irredeemable jerk. You spent your entire childhood bullying and beating up kids weaker than you, and the only reason you want to be a hero is so you can get away with it. Who would ever accept you as a hero? He then turns over to Hatsume. Hatsume, go check up on your father. The police should be on their way. Got it? She willingly complies, leaving Izuku alone with his former bully and Momo. Away from the action at the moment, Koku holds the metal stone, looking at it with a sigh. Mei comes up to him, asking, are you okay? Yes, thanks Mei. The two look aside, seeing Kenshiro coming up to them. Oh good, you're all okay. Koku sighs with relief before getting up to check if he's okay. The man in his ruffled suit checks the metal material, taking it in his hands, asking, is this the ocelite? Nope, he tells her with a grin. It's just a prop we made in the lab in case someone tried to use someone as a hostage against me. Oh. Mei claps her hands together with awe at her father's foresight. That's so smart. So maybe we should tell him. No, not yet. If he just takes it with ease, he'll think something suspicious. Then again, he doesn't look that smart. So, where's the real ocelite? Koku looks at the safe in response, walking over to it with a light pat. It's inside the safe underneath the bottom. But it won't unlock without my eye recognition. Fingerprints can be copied after all. The loud clank strikes against a surface. Hearing the noise, Koku looks aside and sees that Kenshiro has struck his daughter in the head with a fake stone. It won't be the only thing I'm copying. May. He rushes over to attack. But as he does, he stops when he notices something about his former employee's complexion which starts shifting. Like water dripping on paint, his skin starts to run. Back to action. Laughter replaces whatever presents Mei Hatsum took with her. The two turn to Gigan as he guffaws, clutching his busted abdomen. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Momo, curious by this delirious thought, asks, what's funny? It's just the definition of irony, big boobs. Your charity case over there was bullied for years not just by me, but also and mostly by the only asshole from Aldera who got into UA. Izuku narrows his eyes here, he gets a feeling where this is going to tread. The guy so deranged, so stuck up, so convinced that he's the best that he calls other kids extras, breaks the quirk public use law more than I have, and tells the class freak to pray that he gets a quirk in the next life while swan diving. Vile. That is the best way to describe the feeling in Momo's heart as of this moment. Through the process of elimination, she can decipher who exactly this rock-body quirk user is talking about, Kitsuki Bakugo. She knows just how asininely volatile and crude Bakugo is. Nothing Izuku has said in his defense has changed her mind about her beliefs in how villainous he is, but that last part opened a level of disgusted that even she didn't know she could feel. It's also a measure of how little she truly knows about Izuku's past. Then again, who'd blame him for that one? Gigan continues to chuckle while forcing himself to stand. You can judge me all you want, but I'd rather be a villain than to ever set foot into the world in your hollow shoes. No one wanted to be around you, you can't be a hero no matter what, and then there's your family. Shut up. Livid words uttered by a sleeping lion. Your mom got fat because she couldn't handle the stress of dealing with a freak, well your father cut the rope when he found out, so he can properly sow his wild oats elsewhere. Shut up. Gigan towers over him now. Even now you think you can do something and save anyone. Why don't you play hero elsewhere so you don't get someone killed? It goes. The last brick has been thrown, shattering through the tempered glass holding back the storm of bees. Izuku explodes forward shoving Gigan into the wall again. The impact ruptures the villain who spits out blood. Momo stands back in shock seeing the look of anger inside of the boy's eyes. Never before has she been frightened by Izuku. At that moment, the boy's eyes widen. He tilts his head downward at where he finds a cold chef's knife stuck into his abdomen. Izuku. I don't know how you trained yourself to be this strong, but it doesn't matter. A punch to the face sends Izuku flying back into a pile of rubble. The knife flies out landing elsewhere. Gigan laughs as he gets up, glaring at the spider boy holding where he was impaled. Rocks form from his body, you're still Deku, and this is reality. If life was a shounen manga, then that'd be the point where you get up stronger than ever. This is where you shut me up with a great big speech proving me wrong. This is where you don't get killed by my trigger-powered quirk. Hey, jerk. Gigan turns around to the person who called him out and receives a face full of webbing. He cries out grabbing the liquid that is already hardened, while Momo stands aiming and holding the web shooter she held. You looked. Momo. Izuku shouts, getting up and rushing over at Gigan. She has already tossed over the web shooter at him, which he grabs and attaches to his right arm, before making a stop and firing at Gigan's face once more. Ugh. What is this shit? While he's still frazzled, Izuku pulls the thread into range, and with a powerful spin, slams his left leg into the side of the bully's head. The impact knocks Gigan over crashing into the table, his bleached eyes declaring Izuku the victor. Midoriya. Izuku looks over where Mei called out to him. Sirens can be heard in the background. Good work to you, says a voice. Standing in a bar within the city's darker districts, Koku Hatsum faces a computer monitor that reads, sound only. Beside him are villains as well, one man whose bodily figure is compassed entirely of a black mist held together by a suit complete with tie, and the other a man wearing an assortment of hands all over his body. One such hand covers his face. He also wears a bandana over his head, covering his hair entirely. This Koku places the ocelite on the table. Seeing it, fake Koku voices his thoughts. I don't get it. Why did you need both of us? The former thief wouldn't give up a prize so easily, says the voice on the monitor. I expected him to relay a trick, and I was right. That's why we sent you along with that kid. The fake Koku giggles, giving a rather disturbing smile. On the screen, a newer voice says, you seem pleased. What is it? Let's just say I got something else you might be after. He then raises his right hand from behind his back, revealing a dirtied chef's knife. A souvenir from Spiderman. Back to action. At the Hatsum household, Izuku sits in the kitchen with Momo, Mei, and her father. She treats Koku as the rich girl wraps a gauze over the blade wound in the spider boy's stomach. Her old man stares with intrigue as she finishes, before locking away the first aid kit. The police have already arrived and locked up Jiruganretsu for transport. Thank you, Momo, he tells her while touching where it's wrapped. Are you sure you two are okay? All I got was a busted arm and a bite mark, speaks Koku as he watches Izuku put on the mask. He then says, it's hard to imagine the vigilante on the news as just a kid. That reminds him, he's in a bit of a predicament. Again, someone found out about him. He has to properly calm down. I can keep a secret. Phew. So, about. Koku gives him a look. I'm sure there's an interesting story as to why you're a vigilante, but with everything going on I can't bring myself to care. My assistant was probably murdered and replaced with an impostor, the Ocelite is stolen, and half my house has been torn apart. Finding out my daughter's dating a vigilante is the last thing I want to think about. Wait, we're not. May pushes him aside to interrupt. Dad, what can we do now? She asks him. We'll have to wait for Monsieur Oirozu here to make more, speaks Koku looking over to Momo. I'll make some as soon as possible, she tells him, holding her hands up with excitement. I've already studied its contents and have plans for implementing into my costume. Momo then calms down. But, it'll take some time. The first time I made it drained me of most of my lipids. Then I guess we'll have to wait for a replacement. No longer able to keep a positive face, the grown man points to the door. You two go home now. I have to clean this up. With that, their visit to the Hatsume household has come to an end. As Izuku and Momo walk away from the Hatsume residence, the rich girl faces her friend with worrying eyes. Izuku, can we go to your house? What for? I want to talk to you in private about your past, if that's okay, she declares, promoting shock on her face. They've even stopped walking. You do? There are some things that guy said that worry me about you. You don't have to tell me, but… No, it's okay. He nods to her. You told me about your life, so you deserve to know about me too. Thank you, she smiles to him as they make their way to his abode. After a bus ride, the two finally reach the Midoriya residence. Hello. Izuku calls out, looking for his mom. The interview must have ended, or they took it elsewhere. Shrugging, Izuku leads Momo over to his bedroom where he takes a seat on his bed. She joins next to him. Thank you for agreeing to this. It's no problem, Momo. A deep breath comes in as he prepares to speak. Thinking back to it reverts his docile expression to a darker, more sullen one. So, I heard Midoriya won't get a quirk. Oh, sucks to be him then. Yeah. As if that crybaby would have gotten one anyway. Okay. So, as you know, I was quirkless. Being the freak of the class I got bullied a lot and no one cared for me at all. As time went on, except for Kaken and Gigan, the beatings stopped. Wow. Everyone got so many chocolates today. I check my desk looking for the ones given to me, and there is none. Kaken got one and I didn't. Again. For the 8th year in a row. They just ignored me instead, no name, no attribute, no personality. All they remembered about me is that I could do nothing, and just like them, I stopped caring about me too. He looks at her. Like I to you, you and Ichako were the first real friends I ever had since I was 5. Izuku. I still wanted to be a hero, until last year for a time when I met All Might. He saved me from a villain, and after some, he thinks about whether or not to tell the truth. No, not yet. That's All Might's secret, not his. Things, he told me that a hero needs the power to protect himself and others, and because I can't I shouldn't. It's not wrong to dream Midoriya, but you need to be realistic. You should not be a hero without power. The boy takes a break to look at the ceiling, at all the merchandise he's collected, including some that have been taped and repaired, including a picture featuring a life-sized version of the big guy himself. I lived my life since having fully given up. I didn't have anything I was good at either. I tried science to maybe become a hero, but I wasn't good there either. That formula was made by chance, and I wasn't that good in science either. No matter what, I was just a Deku. Izuku. So much of Izuku's behavior is coming to an understanding for Momo. If this is true, then maybe. He shakes his head. But let's not dwell on it. Have you ever thought to kill yourself? She asks suddenly, taking the boy by surprise. What? Take a swan dive off the roof and pray to get a quirk in the next life. His heart quenches at a repetition of the words spoken by Gigan less than 2 hours ago. Still, he needs to be strong and smiles for her as best as he can. That was just Kaken being a jerk. I doubt he meant it. He gets up from his bed. And is immediately pulled down by Momo grasping and hugging him tightly. Now she's crying, speaking with a broken tone. Izuku, please stop. Don't smile when you're having these thoughts. You've contemplated suicide and lost value in living. Is that why her death hit you so hard? That opens his eyes further. You who had nothing to live for made a mistake that costed someone else's future. And now you're being reckless thinking if you died as a hero you'd find forgiveness. Is that right? A great deal of silence beats by, confirming an answer. her arms pull him in tighter. I don't know if this DA will work all the way, but know that you are valuable whether as a hero or not. If you want to be one, please care about yourself too, because I don't think I can stand losing you. Momo. You were there for me then, so I will be here for you now. Their cheeks touch now. Holding on to him, her heart beats faster as he hugs her back. Splashes of sorrow drench her shoulder. Thank you, Momo. For a bit they remain like that, not caring about the world around them. As easily as their problems began, they are forgotten easily in this instance. For Momo, another problem erupts from her heart. I have feelings for him. Over in Hosu, a group of people can be seen walking out of the local shopping district. Each of them carrying a bag of goodies, these teenagers continue about their day minding their own business. As they walk by, their path along the brightly lit sidewalk is blocked when a lone figure shrouded in a dark blue cloak stands before them. Hey. Do any of you know of something fun to do? The four teens look to one another, under the belief that this guy is on drugs or something. No. Then, I'll make something fun. As this happens, a man can be seen speeding through the streets. He's a hero clad head to toe in familiar white armor. On his body, engine ports can be seen coming from his arms and legs. Across his left shoulder armor is ing in blue letters. The man makes an abrupt stop when he hears the sound of screaming, like someone crying out in horror and anguish, before it was suddenly silenced. He rushes to the scene, running down a sidewalk past a group of people running like they'd seen death personified. That is when he sees it, a pile of 4 unconscious bodies left in a mangled position. Some legs are bent forward. Someone's spinal structure is left in plain view. A girl's head was smashed into a wall, her body left hanging and draped on the side. All this and the entire block thereon and its connected ones are colored a crimson shade. He steps back in horror, clutching his mouthpiece to the helmet. He notices on the crime scene a series of footprints the size of boots going down an alley. The hero turns to a pedestrian watching, immediately saying, "Call the police. Let them know what happened," before giving chase. Down the alley, he runs, stopping when he sees a man standing in the dim shadows. "You there? Stop," he shouts, angrily pointing at the cloaked person. You're coming in for questioning." He then speeds forth, rushing at the cloaked villain. The man slowly turns left just as he reaches, revealing a vertical scar running up his left eye and something else in place of said eye. All this, accompanied by a devious and hungry grin. Now that will be unfortunately all for today's fanfic, but do not worry, more will be coming soon for you to enjoy. Golden Fanfics out.